In the beginning, and in the end, there was darkness and nothing more. Hi, and welcome to Twin Flames Between Worlds podcast. My name is Tabitha.
And I'm Liesl.
Hi, and welcome to our first episode of Season 5 of A Court of Silver Flames by Sarah J Maas.
Woo!
Yay! Oh my god, Season 5. Hi, guys. It's been a little bit. It's 2025 now. LA is on fire.
Everyone's getting sick around us.
We took a hiatus. We got sick.
Yeah.
We got Ruthie sick, our friend.
Yep.
LA got on fire, and now we're here doing the podcast again. And so, as for our Patreon members, you might see that our background is a little bit different. We are now sitting on a futon that my parents got me for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you guys. That we are going to be starting. This was always the plan to set up like kind of an ACOTAR corner.
Mm-hmm.
So if you do really want to see, we'll put pictures up.
Yeah.
So that it's not just, oh my God, you got to pay $5 to see. But yes, so we will have some fun little knickknacks in the background. So yay.
And maybe they'll change for each episode too. We don't know.
Who knows? You'll have to see to find out. But so, yes, as we get into Silver Flame, I just want to say two things real quick for people who are new, or like if you are new at this point, like just a reminder is that we are very explicit, especially in this book. Because according to SJM herself, this is the actual adult book of ACOTAR. Everything up to this point, I guess, has been quote unquote young adult. Get the fuck out of here.
If that's young adult, then just brace yourself for an actual adult.
I have no idea what that means. When I read this the first time, I was like, I'm scared of what that actually means.
Yeah, because that young adult, I mean, they weren't exactly fade to black.
No.
Except for like first.
I mean, the cabin scene, Jesus Christ alone, and then ACOWAR, and even...
So if that's tame...
This is going to be bad, but it's also going to be really good.
Spicy.
So please, wary of little listening ears, and we also do cuss. So we are those kind of women. Yeah. And also, yes, how we are going to, and how we always have done, we are going to have mini episodes along the way for people who have already read the series and are kind of just wanting theory stuff at this point, and kind of us just shooting the shit, talking with each other about it. While these episodes are going to be deep dives into the chapters that we say. So these first 4 chapters are from the prologue. Let me say that again. The prologue to the end of chapter 4. Mm-hmm. So that's not very much, but also that's like 60 pages. There is a lot of exposition in these first few pages.
It is a very thick.
Yes, this is the longest book so far. So this is going to be a journey. Silver Flames is probably one of the most, I think, it's very raw experiences. So I think like also brace yourselves in that way. Mm-hmm. Is that we will be talking a lot about trauma and how to get through that and whatever. So there might even be times where we get very like teary-eyed in moments. So just brace yourself for that as well. But I am very, very excited.
Yes, I'm excited. I've been waiting for this one.
This book is it's just every ACOTAR book just got like better and better for me. And it's like I think this is the one that people are wait for it. Here it is. And that's why I feel like ACOTAR has such a big cult following now, because of this book specifically, and then what is to come. There is so much theory behind this book in general. So I am really excited.
Yes, I'm excited. I'm ready to get started.
So yes, let's just go ahead and get started. Welcome in. So welcome back to the new perspectives of ACOTAR. Okay, so we're going into the prologue from Nesta's perspective in this very third person POV, right? Mm-hmm. So this is her thinking about this was a wild place to start. I was like, SJM, what a fucking intro.
I am so glad we finally actually got it, though.
We get a glimpse of what Nesta felt going into the cauldron, which I was like, please, can somebody explain it? Because neither her or Elaine wanted to explain it at all.
Yeah. They never said anything of what happened once they were submerged.
Right.
Or what it felt like or anything. I mean, obviously, at the time, they died going in there, but...
This is how we know retroactively when we said that back in season 2 to when we did the end of that book. That's how we knew it's like they were dying because of this, level of, I mean, we knew it back then because it said they felt like acid when their skin touched it. But also like, especially hearing it from her perspective, like their humanity was burned away.
Yeah. And then, so then we get this thing, this beautiful little prologue. And it's just like, we're finally getting like what thoughts we're going through.
I just love it. Says the cold of the gaps between stars, the cold of a world before light.
That's cold.
Because again, the cauldron is the life force of their world. So it's like they're basically getting deep fried in the essence of the world. Yeah. Which is crazy.
Hey, you want to go get deep fried in a tub?
I mean, she basically describes it as burning hellfire.
Yeah.
She's like, it feels like death. Whoa. And then, okay, again, not everybody getting their bows and arrows out really quickly, but I will say that there are so many points. Again, I didn't think I'd be the one defending Nesta right away, but I think this book, and especially these first chapters, I went, whoa, that is a whole matter of perspective. Because I'm not saying that she doesn't, I'm just going to go right off the bat and everybody and say that I don't think that she is doing anything in the right way. She is being a bitch to everyone around her, but her thoughts and her perspective on things kind of give a new background into why.
Yeah.
Not saying that, again, the outcome is good.
Right. But it rather than us just seeing the one side of like, oh, Nesta is not hanging out with her family or
being a bitch again.
She's not wanting to do anything with the inner circle, whatnot. She's spending all this money. She's, at taverns and taking men home, that kind of thing. But then we get her perspective and it's like, no, actually she is really traumatized, which now we're seeing her side of it, which again, I appreciate because we're going to be in her perspective.
I think at the top of the bat, what I was thinking is that while she's about to get submerged, because again, she hasn't, like, her toes are touched, she hasn't, like, been fully submerged. It's almost like we're getting the scene again. She is looking out, and the first thing she's thinking of, she's not thinking of, her fucking feet burning or what is going to come. She is looking at Elaine and feeling sorrow. She's thinking about Elaine first, like she has always done. She has put Elaine first and not giving a fuck about herself that she's about to die.
Back when they were close.
Back when, again, we'll get to that. I also love how in Nesta's narration, even though it's in third person, I love how only Elaine, Nesta, and Elaine, Feyre, and Cassian have names. Everybody else is that one, or Feyre's mate, or like Feyre's love interest, or that one.
That one.
It's funny that there's only a few people that have names.
But I'm glad that Cassian is one of them.
I know. I mean, that right there, that should, done the end of the story. We know she already likes him.
Yeah.
There is no contest. Now we just have to sit through it.
We have to figure out how that's gonna get there, but I mean, we've been shipping it since they met.
This has been a long time coming, and
slow burn.
I am excited to see it. But I love how when she talks about it, she's like, okay, there's Feyre's ex-lover, and then there's Feyre's new lover.
His gagged ex-lover. Because if you remember, the King of Fiber did gag him.
Oh my god. Okay, I know we don't like Nesta, especially at the start of this, but actually she's got some really good humor to her.
Yeah.
She's like, ugh, what a pitiful sock. Even though she's kind of the same way.
Yeah, true.
I love how she was worried about Cassian then. She talks about it. Cassian broken and bleeding on the floor. He knew. I love how when she says the King of Hybern did this to us, to me, she says she did it to me, Elaine, and Cass. No one else.
Yeah.
Not poor Azrael who got shot.
No, and she was also lying in a pile of blood.
Thinking about him at all. It's okay.
Or, Feyre puking on the ground, whatever.
Yeah, no, Feyre is not in her mind at all.
None of that. Just her. Which, honestly, I am proud of her for including her in that. Because some people are, if she's so obsessed with protecting Elaine, they won't consider themselves. But she's like, no, to me, Elaine, and then Cassian.
And of course, the death promise, the target that she, because, we have to keep in canon.
The
finger. I also love how it describes as phantom talons, like tugging her down. Very much, again, if you have seen our theory or you've listened to our theory episodes before, very corporealizes the cauldron.
Yeah.
To a very certain extent in this first part.
With
and I'm
sentience.
like, oh my god, that is wild. And again, they're basically dying to become immortal. They are getting their humanity stripped from them. I love, and I know it was the quote at the beginning, but this quote, bro, in the beginning and in the end, there was darkness and nothing more. What a fucking quote. Not only to, I mean, okay, I'm not saying that it's going to pop up again. I'm just saying at this point, with us being ACOTAR connoisseurs, I'm like, this is probably a fucking metaphor for her journey.
Probably.
I was like, has to be. In the beginning, we're going to get her in darkness, and then she's going to pop out of it. At some. And then she describes this fire, again, silver flames, melting into her veins. Like whenever, again, you never watched Twilight. I really need you to watch Twilight so that you can understand the references that I'm bringing up. When any Twilight fans out there, when Bella got changed into a vampire, spoiler.
Oh my god, shocking. It's like I've never watched YouTube shorts before.
When they show the transformation, there's this kind of thick coating that goes, which is the venom, right? It goes over the vein. Like, I am visualizing this as this power or whatever, this silver flame or molten ore, or whatever she's describing it as, is coating her veins. Again, stripping that humanity from her, which I bet probably fucking hurt.
Yeah.
Fresh steel, she clawed at the darkness with talons and teeth.
A fighter.
Again, this reference to her being steel.
Yeah.
Like you have brought up before.
Iron-willed and hard as steel, whatnot. Her steel eyes.
Right. So, yes, she did truthfully say that to us in the last book, last book as in ACOWAR, is that she tore at the cauldron, which is what we knew already, but the dark eternity shuddered.
I think it's just the fact that Nesta said that she fought her way out of it and whatnot. Now seeing how much she actually fought. She wasn't just struggling to try and get loose, flailing her arms or whatnot. She was like actually biting and like turning very animalistic to get out of there.
Right. She's very... didn't Cassian say, I think in ACOWAR some point, she said like she was acting like a cornered animal? Or no, that was in Frost and Starlight. Yeah.
So it wasn't in ACOWAR, but I feel like that's been mentioned before as well. Like, you know, all about animal and territories and animalistic the stuff like that. But and yes, as you were saying, the fact that she made the cauldron, which created their world, all of its living beings, including all of the monsters, the fact that Nesta Archeron made that thing terrified by how hard she was fighting, that's a testament to how much power she actually has.
Which again goes back to something Liesl said before about how she thinks the cauldron, again, go back and watch our theories for ACOWAR, but that the cauldron is sentient. That totally gives that vibe off, because like, how would something shudder if it wasn't something sentient? I mean, the cauldron is sentient.
But like, in a more physical sense of it has an awareness.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's a difference, if we can actually put that difference here between sentience and awareness, because they're basically the same meaning. But I feel like there is a difference because it's almost like it has thoughts more so and feelings and stuff.
I think my biggest question is, why was it so scared? Like, I mean, again, it's getting clawed at, but I mean, did no one ever fight back darkness? I don't know. Or what is happening?
I don't know. Okay, this is going to be a weird analogy, but just bear with me. I feel like it's kind of like when a cat scratches you. Cat, like, it'll scratch at you, and it'll seem fine. Maybe you've got a few, like, wounds, battle wounds, whatever. But then after a few seconds, the scratches start burning because of whatever, I guess, bacteria is in the cat claws. I don't know. But I don't know. For some reason, I equate that to this, of she is clawing, and so it's not just like leaving scratches on the cauldron, so to speak, but it's like actually like leaving something behind that is actively hurting the cauldron.
Oh yeah, because then that would make sense for the fact that she did steal something without it knowing that it took it.
Right. So it's like kind of with that analogy of like only after the fact did you start to feel the hurt kind of thing. That was a weird analogy, but thanks for listening.
I think I liked the fact that, again, SJM with her last of a chapter thing, even though this is just a prologue. I like how she says, well, sorry, speaking of your like cat pawing, the cauldron struggled like a bird under a cat paw.
I forgot about that.
Speaking of, maybe, yeah. She said, wrapped in black eternity, Nesta and the cauldron twined, burning through the darkness like a newborn star.
Again, the flame and fire.
That also makes me think like, okay, maybe this is me stretching a little bit, but whenever I hear anything about like a newborn star, that means something new. Like
something they've never seen before.
Something new that's coming into the world, brand new baby.
Baby. Like a baby.
Because that's kind of what's happening though, right?
It's like something that has never been seen before. Or maybe hasn't been seen in a long time.
Mm-hmm. Something new becoming from the old, but that is turning into new at the same time. Or something just completely.
Yeah.
I was like, ooh, I circled that immediately. I was like, what is this?
Yeah.
I was like, also the stars analogy? Okay.
A newborn star, huh?
we knew it was bad, but then again, hearing it and reading it, it's like, oh yeah, that was a lot more worse than.
In her perspective, absolutely.
Because again, we're not trying to compare tragedies.
Right.
At least Feyre, she was out like a light. I mean, she did get tortured a little bit by Amarantha by the end, but then as soon as her spine cracked, it was over.
Yeah.
Versus this is like torture of burning and
slowly dying, slowly being.
And Feyre didn't feel getting turned. Maybe it would. See, and that's where the analogy of the Twilight thing, the reason that Bella's transformation did not hurt was because she was like in Feyre's comatose. So she didn't feel anything. Versus this, you're like feeling the venom bite and you're feeling everything go through.
Yeah, and it makes me wonder, like, if that was something similar to, like, Miriam, for example. Like, we don't know much about that, and she's technically still half human. So, but at that same time, like, she was almost dead. So it was similar with the death thing before she was turned.
Yeah, she got stabbed, like, in the rib.
Yeah.
That could have been similar, yeah. I would have.
But then again, if she passed out, then she wouldn't have felt the turn. So it's like, again, things we don't know the answers.
Again, not comparing, but also, yes. It's, would you rather be quick or long? I guess. Wait, did I say, wait, what did I just say?
Would you rather be quick or long?
I mean, I want it to be,
would you rather your death be quick or long?
Yes. I didn't mean, well, I mean, I want it to be long. Okay.
How about would you like it to be painless?
We haven't even gotten to the sex yet, and there's already sexual tension in this book. So I think I'm just going with that.
I think if I died, yeah, I probably would want it to be painless. But okay, weirdly, I would want it to be more like Claire Better's death, where it's painless.
But you're watching you get fucking stabbed at?
Okay, maybe not that part. But like in the sense of like it's a painless death, but you're still kind of watching and like observing. That sounds really weird.
You would rather watch yourself get fucking torn up?
No.
Then,
no,
okay,
I guess
okay.
I guess in that sense, then it was bad. But I meant it, I guess, in the sense of not having any pain, having the pain taken away, that kind of
So
stuff.
kind of like Feyre, as in watching her just kind of sit there, because she was there. She watched it afterward. After she got fucking cracked, she was watching it, and she wasn't in pain.
Yeah,
I feel like that's what you're thinking of.
Probably, yeah, because I don't want it to sound like a creepy thing of like I want to watch myself die.
No, I don't think you're saying it was creepy. I understand what you're saying, but also I don't think anybody would want to go out like that.
That's true.
That was awful.
Yeah.
Also, you'd have to scream at the right time and everything.
Yeah.
Like just.
Yeah, that's true. Now, I guess maybe going away from the ACOTAR deaths, then like maybe like Rue from Hunger Games, for example, where even though she was dying, you know, she was at peace.
Yeah. Damn, that death still got me.
Yeah.
But
Still
anyway, moving on. So we get to chapter 1, which again, these part names. Oh, I'm so excited.
Yes, there are part names.
Yes, part 1, novice. Okay, I will say I didn't know what this meant at the moment, but I think when I got to the chapter, like chapter 2 or 3, or you know, whenever like we got the ultimatum, right, which we'll go into, I was like, oh, she's gonna learn how to fight,
right?
So it's her at the novice stage, like that's what I was thinking. Yeah. I'm not saying that's wrong or right, but that was what I was. But I did. Usually, there's Princess of Carrion. It was the High Lady. Like they were easy part names where I'm like, okay, that one makes sense. I understand that.
I think I don't remember my exact impression of what novice was meant, but typically with novice, you do think it's like the beginning of something. You're learning something. So maybe I was thinking like it was either the training thing, which then we learn later in this section, or it's like novice as in learning how to begin coping with stuff.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I don't know if that makes sense, like a novice to life, novice to coping, but
hey, I mean, she's got to start somewhere, man.
Yeah.
I love where this starts. Like where this book is jumping right in, because again, we have gotten 4 books of ACOTAR. We know the lore, we know the characters, we know what's going on. Let's just jump right in, shall we? Like let's jump in and just do it. Again, they're not going to do it yet, but Cassian is at Nesta's shitty apartment door, which we've been in last book.
Yeah, so we started in Cassian's point of view.
Yes, started, and again, I think she still does a good job, even though she does switch perspectives in a chapter. Mm-hmm. She will say Nesta or Cassian right at the get-go, right. And she keeps saying it throughout, which your mom, she does keep saying the names throughout the rest of it.
I do appreciate that for the most part, there is a perspective switch mid-chapter for every chapter.
There's a page break too.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the actual book, there is a page break. It's not just like different paragraphs.
Right. There's like
an
actual
full-on page break.
And then there's typically like a symbol or a tilde or something to break it as well.
So it's very easy to notice. And those are the two perspectives we're going to be in. So Cassian's at Nesta's shitty apartment door, and we don't know why he's there. Like, right at first, we don't. Yeah. But it's not good, because they have been leaving her alone, which they will keep saying in this fucking chapter about how they've left her alone for months. So why is he coming?
And this is like the first time that we have seen anyway, even just from Frost and Starlight, where Cassian actually goes to her apartment.
Oh, right.
Like, knock on her door rather than just waiting outside to make sure she got home.
I love how in his first, talk, he's just like, okay, I'm a skilled warrior general, but Nesta, I hesitate.
Yeah. Like, I am actually balking from knocking on her door.
It's kind of cute, though, but, it's so sad. Because we know that he thinks that she hates him. We all know this place sucks.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I love how Cassian as a character loves seeing the good in things. Like, he'll bring up, okay, at least she's got locks in her door. Or, at least...
He's trying so hard to give her the benefit of the doubt.
He is, and he's such a good man.
You are going to die this
point. Oh, yeah, no. The Cassian girl on the couch. This is going to be hard. But it's also going to be hard for you, too.
I know, we do see more.
Since, yes, Asriel is staying up at the House of Wind, where they're at, you are not in the clear, bitch.
No, I'm not.
You are not in the clear.
It'll be harder for you, for sure.
Yes, it will be harder for me. But yeah, he's, seeing the good in things. He's like, coward, grow some damn balls, sitting there, still with, his...
scolding himself. He's like, come on, just knock.
We kind of get an update from the last book while he's monologuing, seeing Nesta. He's like, okay, the river house is complete. So it's been months. I would say, I think it's been at least 6 months, because if I'm remembering, they talked about, which we'll get into, they talked about that summer party. So we saw the winter solstice last, so the summer has passed.
Yeah.
So it's autumn now.
Yeah.
So it's definitely been 6 months or so since then.
Yeah.
Since winter. Or 8. Something like that.
I'd probably say at least 8.
It's been pretty long. So it's been a long time.
Yeah. And she's still just been taverning and fucking.
Whoring.
And...
You can call it what it is.
At least she's not selling herself.
No. That's not
Maybe she should be, though, with how high her prices are. Her tabs are.
That would get her to pay rent. Jesus.
Exactly. I mean, and how much she's sleeping with other people anyway.
She'd make a lot of money. I don't think her pride would let her do that, though.
That's true.
I think that's where the bar is.
She still needs a little bit of control of who she ends up being with.
But so the townhouse is sitting empty, which is kind of sad because that's where we've been all the time. But I'm also excited to see this river house.
It's kind of like an Airbnb now.
Yeah. But the thing is, the townhouse is empty and they have offered for her to stay there. And that would be free because there's no rent to pay.
And also, they wouldn't be there.
They wouldn't be there. But if we are going with the Nesta perspective, I don't think she wants somebody's leftover stuff.
Right.
I think that there's a level of her pride that would not like that.
Right.
Again, I'm not saying that pride is right or wrong. I'm just saying that's a matter of perspective. She doesn't want something that isn't hers.
That's true. And the slums that she's in right now, they're really bad, but technically she did find them, and technically she is renting herself. So technically she did choose.
I also love how he also brings up, okay, again, nobody wants to stay at the House of Wind. And I'm laughing my ass off because I'm just okay, so that means y'all are staying up at the House of Wind.
You're gonna make the House of Wind fun.
So that's kind of our update so far. I mean, we get more, but that's kind of the basis of what we get. Because I like how we learn it over time. I don't like how it's just a full, here's what's happened in the last 8 months. We learn it as it goes.
Because a lore dump is important from time to time, and Sarah always does one, but definitely it's we're just starting this book. Thank you, Cassian, for the update. Let's see how this interaction goes.
Right. So he finally does knock on the door and he braces for the fight. And yeah, it seems like some time has passed. And then again, I think I like how this end of the summer barge party that we kind of gets mentioned a couple times is kind of mysterious. We don't know what happened. All we know is that her and Amren had a fight and that she went on it.
Amren was pissed at the end of it.
There was some, I'm assuming a fight because
it was probably some kind of fight. Amren was, what was it? She was pissed and brooding and whatnot. And then Nesta just ran off, first people off.
And then didn't talk to anybody for a long time. Didn't go to any events after that.
Stopped going to Amren's place, and it was just something happened.
It makes her look worse. And she looks worse physically.
Yeah. Yeah. She certainly hasn't been taking care of herself.
So I like how that's kind of mysterious. Yeah. I know it kind of is annoying because I'm just I want to know. But at the same time, it's they know what happened. But the thing is, Cassian doesn't know. The only people that know what happened that night is Amren and Nesta. So anyway, I love how when she opens the door, she is just wearing a guy's shirt.
Yeah.
And that's it. No underwear. hair, no nothing.
She just grabbed the first thing that was on the floor.
I'm also thinking Cassian is kind of struck because part of it is, oh my god, she doesn't have any underwear.
She's not wearing pants. Those are really nice legs.
But then also she's wearing another guy's shirt.
Right.
That is so
just some
annoying.
strange male's shirt.
Oh my god. But he still calls her face beautiful, even though she is so skinny and unhealthy. He is like, but that beautiful face.
I mean, to be fair, that is what Reese thought with Feyre as well.
It
of
was.
Like, Feyre was so skinny and gaunt, and Reese was just like, so pretty, and I want to help you.
I like how their journeys are similar, but they're not the same. Like, again, they're not the same relationship. That's a positive trait that can be applied to a lot of scenarios. It's not necessarily mirroring.
It's kind of like the idea of love someone at their worst.
Yeah, like, so it's like, again, it's not just it's just not, oh, this is Reese and Feyre. Like, it's not. God, this is gonna be hard to get through because just the first thing Cassian does, leans up against the door like some sort of hot badass and is trying to flirt.
He's trying to make this like less awkward because Nesta's glaring at him.
He's just like, rough night.
And she's like hardly, the thing is that made me laugh was he stood there as he heard 4 distinct locks unlocked. And then she opened the door, but barely enough for him to see in.
He put his boot in the door.
Yeah.
Feyre wants you at the house. Which one? She's got like 5.
Yeah.
Well, now, yeah, but
yeah.
You know what house.
I know what house. Probably the most recent big one that everyone's moved into.
And Cassie has to escort her? That's
pretty bad to make sure that she gets there.
That made me think, I was like, yeah, this is gonna be bad. Again, at this point, I really needed to know about this end of the summer party because when Cassian talks about it, like their exchange, because we're assuming that they didn't talk to each other since solstice. And this is the first time that they're talking to each other again. And he says, hello, Ness. And she goes, move. And that is all she says to him. Again, everything's a matter of perspective, but that is just bitchy.
Yeah. The fact that he tried again after she said the first move, and then she just still said move. And he's like, gladly.
And they haven't spoken since. I was surprised that Amryn, I think this surprised me a lot because I didn't think that this is where this would go. When we were talking about our theories for Frost and Starlight, a lot of them got debunked right off the bat. I was pleasantly surprised about that, but also I was like, damn it.
Right. It's like, well, that was wrong.
No, Amryn is not fucking Nesta's ally anymore. If chapter 2 has anything to say about it.
Yeah.
She is distancing herself hella.
Yeah. Which makes me even more curious to what happened.
And the fact that Cassian is pulling rank on her to go. Uh-oh.
Which probably means like Cass is under direct order to do this as well. Which makes me feel a little bit bad for him.
I'm not trying to, I don't want to keep apologizing, but I'm just giving the devil's advocate here. That is a little annoying to Nesta. That has never been a thing. But also, how many times do we know that Feyre has tried to come over there?
Right.
Like by herself. I'm not saying that that's Feyre's fault. I'm just saying they didn't talk to her all this time, and then all of a sudden, like, she's demanding her presence in the way it's said. That's a little... I just like the fact that she got mad. She's like, do you think I look like I need 2 hours to get ready? Yes. The answer to that is yes.
Absolutely. Especially as we quickly learn she has no idea where any of her clothes are.
Or the man that's currently in the bedroom right now that I was like, there's someone still here? I was like,
I can totally, even before it even got to the point where in Nesta's point of view, like even before that, I was thinking, I'm gonna guess that the guy is trying to sneak out the window right now and he's totally gonna fall and make Cassian notice him.
I thought he was gonna kill him. I was like, I was expecting some sort of physical confrontation, but also it's Cassian, so he's not gonna be like territorial alpha male. No. Not yet.
Although, I mean, as we'll get there, that male was terrified knowing that Cassian was there.
Because that's what you'd think. Yeah. Because everyone is assuming that Cassian and Nesta are together after the last war. Or not the last war, but after the war.
Yeah.
So there was sort of an assumption that the general and the sister are together.
Yeah.
And her sledding around town
does not look very good on Cassian.
Oh.
Still not fair to Cassian.
I don't think everyone knew, though, about the Nesta and Cassian. No. Like, I just think they knew, they saw them together and there was some sort of assumption.
Yeah.
But I don't think everybody knew. Can I just say how much I love Cassian again? Is that this line made me, and she knows this. I was laughing my ass off for like 5 minutes about this line. About him looking at her body. On any other female, those magnificent breasts might have been enough cause for him to begin courting her the moment he met her.
Well,
I have some very inviting breasts. That is the first thing that came to my mind. I am just telling you guys what I actually thought.
we already know Cass is a tip.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's an all-around man.
Oh, yeah.
But
he's a Nesta.
he brings up tits a lot.
Especially Nesta's tits.
Doesn't bring up ass at all. Well, okay. A real man likes both. But there is a level of which one?
There's at least going to be a preference.
There's a bisexualness too.
Yeah.
Tits and ass. I swing one way. I'm only saying that because you're the bisexual here.
It's a bodily orientation.
So, god damn it. She is too thin.
Yeah.
But I think, like what he says, it's the fire in her eyes that tempts him more than the tits, for sure. Like,
good for you, Cassian.
I like her eyes. I like how she looks like she can fucking, like, rip me through.
Because we've mentioned this before. Cassian wants someone who will fight him.
He cannot have a docile woman. There is no way.
He needs and wants someone to banter with. And if that results in sparring, actual physical sparring, then hell yeah, he loves doing that.
He wants a type A for sure. And they're both type A's, and that's what makes this relationship different than Feyre and Rhys. Yeah. For sure. They're both A's.
Yeah.
I think what's still really sad about this beginning is that Cassian truthfully believes that Nesta wants nothing to do with him and that he hates him. It's not like the other novels that I've read where when the guy's like, nah, you don't really like hate me. I'm too hot or I'm too da-da-da. It's anybody who's read fantasy knows that is a trope of like, no, I know you'll fall for me. There's an arrogance to the guy that the girl will knock down, but it's like, we're getting a switch here in roles, and I kind of like it. Again, I don't like him in that position, but he's kind of getting thrown into the woman role. The typical, in these kind of books, woman role of feeling insecure, feeling like guy hates her, and feeling like he doesn't want anything to do with her.
This proud Illyrian warrior is feeling insecure that someone doesn't like him and feeling so unworthy, and it's just like, where did this come from, Cass? I mean, it's kind of always been there with Ness. He kind of just hides it behind playfulness.
But I think that's where this story is getting set up, right? Is that in every book we've read so far, he has been insecure. And I'm wondering whether or not this kind of seems like a contradictory thing. I think that this is gonna cause him to have more security in the end.
Probably, because it'll be like a satisfying of the insecurity, like fix it.
Not just about Nesta, but about him. I think she'll help him through that, for sure. And then, of course, thinking all these things, and then thud, oh my god, there is a man still right here in her bedroom. This is not how that story would start.
The fact that the thud happens, like, after Cassian is like, and you can tell that mail to, like, get that mail out of your room, and then there's the thud of, like, oh shit, I've been caught.
She's just like, I didn't think you'd notice. It's like, dude.
He probably knew when that mail went in.
He probably knew when he got to the door.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, he didn't leave, did he? Oh, Cassian is giving her an hour to get the man out of her house before he comes back. So he's leaving because I don't think he wants to be in the same room that guy is. If he sees him, he will kill him.
Yeah.
That's how
or at least punch him.
Yes.
So he's like, I'm gonna go get some calming tea for me. I mean, for you.
It's like, that's not what I was asked to do. I was asked to see you from door to door.
Ask, sure.
And again, he reminds us that, none of them, their abilities haven't been seen. Even though we still, again, from Nesta's perspective, which they don't know, is that she's like fighting her power at every point here. Like she's just kind of like shoving it down, which I like a lot.
They're like, oh, we haven't seen a speck of her power. It's oh, well, it's there. And she has just been smothering it with sex and alcohol and music.
I get that one.
Yeah.
And I love how she just like slams the door in his face.
At least it didn't slam on his fingers.
Aw, babe. Yeah, he's like, yep, this is not gonna go well.
No.
It's like, why is Feyre summoning her all of a sudden?
Yeah, it's like, okay, what did she do wrong this time? Like, for Feyre to actually summon her.
Yeah, right. So then we go to Nesta's POV. She does not know this guy's name. She walks into the bedroom and she has no idea who this guy's name is.
She's just like, who are you?
She's like,
don't really care.
Okay. He's like halfway at the window when she walks in, and she's picturing Cassian's like on the street looking up at him and laughing.
Yeah.
No, he's far away. I don't think he's doing that. Like,
if he were that close, he would help the man out the window for sure.
And then punch him.
Yeah. After laughing at him falling. terrifying. Or I can imagine him like a far distance away watching the guy climb out the window, but then, then be like, you know what? I'm not going up there. I can do that.
I love how when she describes like him versus like the guy was okay at sex or something, and she's just like, he's not like the man that came in here. I was like, yes, he is not. You have a boy and you have a full-blown man coming in and you keep shutting him out. So smart.
And choosing these kind of guys? I mean, no offense to that kind of guy, but...
Okay, Liesl just said, fuck all you skinny ass guys out there. We don't want no fucking skinny man. We want some full-blown buffed up, like...
No, I was talking about the okay at sex part.
Okay, any of y'all guys that are good at sex are, no, not good at sex.
But I won't know that you guys aren't good at sex.
Until
So you still got a chance.
I need your exes or whoever flings you at. We need to talk so we can discuss.
I need to do my research first.
I need to get your Yelp reviews because it just, oh my god. Anyway, just keep shutting him out. I'm like, bitch, what the fuck? She keeps talking about how, like, she doesn't have any, like, real men in her life. And then the men comes to her door. And then she's like, but not him.
Yeah. It's like, I don't want a male.
Is it funny that this man, and I'm going to assume that he's kind of the metaphor for all the guys that she's ever been with, is not scared of Nesta, which is wild. They are not scared of her. They are scared of the inner circle.
Yeah.
Like, they know who she is.
Yeah.
And they still keep sleeping with her.
They'll sleep with her, but at the same time, they're just like, oh, I hope I was satisfactory so that Feyre doesn't get upset.
Because how are they not scared by her power? If it's, I mean, again, she is hiding it, like we said.
I wonder if, like, when she gets drunk, if, like, that smothers the power even more down so they don't even know that she has power.
Maybe. I didn't actually think about it like that. Because that's what boggled my mind, right? If everyone's so scared of her, why are these guys, like, actually lining up tabs? I mean, obviously, she's a very beautiful woman. But even with her, like...
And honestly, I think that it's part in the way that, like, they clearly all have a type, which is Nesta, similar to how Cassian has that type, where it's like Nesta's not like the other females. Like, she's not all dainty and stuff. Like, she's, well, I wouldn't say she's loud and obnoxious, that kind of character, but, like, she is no nonsense.
She's not a docile female, like, Faye.
And she goes for what she wants, which I think does attract males.
Yeah. I mean, that's an explanation. I think that was just my main question. I was just like, dude, why are they not scared of her? Yeah. They're more scared of Cassian than they are scared of her. It's like, you should be more scared of her.
Maybe it's a reputation thing, too, because Nesta doesn't really have a scary reputation.
I feel like that will change. I also love how comedic it is that she's just like, oh, your shirt. Strips it off, full on bare, and he's just like staring at her. Oh my god. It's not like he didn't have sex with her that night and didn't already see that.
But it was probably in the dark anyway. She doesn't light the fires or whatever, so they probably just stumbled in and fucked, and then he's like, oh, wow.
Well, you actually are gorgeous. And then she's just like, you can go now.
You can go out the door now. He's gone.
Yeah, like, go out this way, please. Oh, it's so funny. I actually find her really funny.
Yeah.
Even though...
It's like a dark sense of humor.
And I dig it.
A wittiness.
Yeah.
I feel like her wittiness is kind of similar to Azriel's in that sense. Like, it's kind of a dry humor in a way. I mean, well, maybe hers is like more of sharp wit, but even like back in ACOTAR and whatnot, even back in ACOTAR when Nesta was still human, I kind of thought that Azriel and Nesta could be friends. And maybe that was along the lines of, like, if Cassian was going to be the love interest that we were making them out to be, then Azriel would be like the love interest's best friend, the love interest's boyfriend.
Like how Cassian is to Faye.
Yeah. Kind of like the sibling.
Just in a different... Yeah. I could have seen that, yeah. Well, it seems like Cassian and Azriel kind of are... Like, they all are close individually with each other, but also it's like Cassian and Azriel, I think, spend more time with each other.
Yeah.
Physical time.
Yeah.
But, I understand what I meant by that. I was saying that what was annoying was that everybody is, it's like the sister living under the shadow of everybody else. It's like, why shouldn't you be scared of me, huh? I'm the one you should be scared of. And then, but they're just worrying about, now all of a sudden he's worrying because Cassian.
Right.
That's a little annoying.
And also, like, what? So I'm not as powerful, I'm not as great, or what?
Or why did that just change like that? Because, like, it's not like he's going to do anything. Maybe.
We'll see.
We find out this guy's, like, dead later. just killed him.
We never hear from him again.
So this is where, like Liesl was saying, that we're kind of getting Nesta's perspective on why she's doing all this. Again, it's not an explanation. You're going to keep reiterating. This is not an excuse for her to be doing all these things. But to suppress her power, she uses sex, drinking, and music to push it down so that it doesn't reach the surface at all. And so she is trying her damnedest to, and the thing is, she's doing the job. She's doing what it's supposed to, like at least the purpose for what she's doing.
So she does have a reason for what she's doing. It's just not good.
It's a lot, because especially in this first chapter when the man is gone at this point, she's like taking a bath, right? And I don't think we thought about this until she said it in ACOTAR to Feyre about how hard it was to take a bath afterward. Because she's like, every time, it's not even just the idea of feeling like she could drown. It's the idea of that every time she puts her foot in the water, like there's this traumatic like trigger response of, I'm gonna start burning or something. It's not necessarily the being forced that's also like, you know, scaring her. It's like the idea that all of a sudden she's just gonna start burning up. It's like you know when they talk about phantom limb? That she's just gonna feel like to start burning up and whatever. And that's a matter of perspective. That's traumatic, bro. The fact that, imagine, especially because they don't have showers in this universe, there's not another way to clean yourself. So either she just had to kind of like
go find a waterfall. Or if we remember back from the first book of what they mentioned very briefly, is they would heat up water and they'd bring in buckets and like dump it over each other.
I think that's what she said she was doing at first, but then now like she's gotten to the point where she's fought it.
She's forced herself to face it.
Which, that's actually a feat. Again, I'm not saying that might have been the healthiest way to do that.
And terrifying that she did it alone. But at the same time, I guess I could understand wanting to face that alone.
Oh, and like she submerges and everything. Like she forces herself to put her head under the water.
Which I can't do that. Even in the bathtub, like I used to do that, but not so much anymore because I have a fear of water going over my ears, going over my head. So it's like, in that sense, I relate.
Which is so different because I love that we're two different people. Opposites in the way of like, I love putting my head under the water. It feels very muted and I like that I don't have to hear everything.
I feel like it's a weird thing for me because I've had moments where like I would like wear goggles in the swimming pool and put my head underwater. And I did actually the muted sounds and all that. But then I think it was like more so like the transition from going from surface to under, just the submerging process, which it's difficult to explain and I won't go too much more into it here. But in that sense, I can totally understand the fear of being like, okay, I'm really close to the surface of the water right now. I can't do this, or how do I do this?
It's just, because then we get this, from all the previous books, we have gotten that she hates her father, which she does. And I think this is where this contradictory dichotomy, however you want to describe it, comes in, and that's what is causing her the most distress in her perspective. She talks about how, like, I love how it transitions, right? Okay, she's not in her apartment, or she's in her apartment, not the stone castle across the sea. She is alive, immortal, and her father is not.
Yeah.
And then, of course, she gets flashbacked of his quotes to her, like, I loved you from the moment I held you in my arms, like, don't touch my daughter.
Don't touch my daughter with your disgusting hands.
And then, like, hearing the neck crack and everything. And so this is where it kind of was, again, we're getting this all kind of right at once, right? She hated her father, yes. But her question is, how could you love me unconditionally and die with love in your eyes at me and do all this shit, like all the saving, riding in on a boat for me, when I hated you with every fucking fiber of my being?
Yeah.
How could you love me unconditionally? That is nuts.
Yeah.
She says in this book, quote, and I quote, what a waste.
Yeah. It's also like confusing as well. I can totally understand how confusing it is to her as well, because it's like, I love you enough to do all those things that you mentioned and come to the rescue, but I didn't love you enough to help Feyre keep you guys from starving? ?
It's like you're kind of coming in all of a sudden out of the blue.
It's like, what changed after Feyre got taken? Maybe it was that Feyre got taken, but even then he was still kind of off.
I think, again, whether or not Nesta hated her father, she did hate her father, but I don't think she hated him as much as she says. I think family does matter to her, but not in the way that, like, we all think it.
I think that she mostly just hated that he did nothing for those years in poverty. And I think in a way that clouded her judgment. So now she's feeling that hatred from those specific years with I feel like she has gratitude that he came to the rescue and with all the ships and stuff and doesn't know how to deal with it.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Because, I mean, that was a lot to happen all at once. For them to know that he did all, to try to comprehend that we said this back in ACOTAR, about how he just was gone for months, and then, like, all of a sudden he's back, and he saved Vasa, he blah, 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 he did this, he got the human armies together, and then all of a sudden just dies. With no...
It's like getting whiplash.
The way I described it is, she hated him until his dying breath, until he saw the love in his eyes at her, and all this hope that she feels like she doesn't deserve that, because she had so much hatred in her heart, even at that point. And so Nesta feels like everything is her fault, which is not what I thought. Because again, anytime she complains to somebody else, she blames it on Feyre, she blames it on Kat, like she blames literally everyone else, which was the perfect skies. In reality, she blames herself for everything.
Yeah.
But she put up such a good front trying to blame everyone else that no one was even thinking that she was actually taking everything on responsibility. Because she says, for almost everything, she says it's her fault for her dad dying, because she didn't know enough about her power to kill the king right away. But the thing is, if she shot that bolt at the king, she would have killed him too.
Yeah.
He would have still been dead. You could give,
and then it definitely would have been her fault that he was dead.
Yeah, because she would have actually just killed him.
And I think it was also like the fact that she was like, okay, I'll draw the king to me and it'll be okay, I'll figure it out. And then I think it was the unexpectedness of the king suddenly appearing with her father. She's like, no, he was not supposed to be involved in this. What the hell?
Because she says she could have saved him. She knew it was the King of Hybern's fault, but it was hers too. She somehow thinks in her twisted mind that scenario she could have saved. If she knew more about her power, or if she like did something quicker or whatever.
Honestly, I think even if she knew more about her power, like say she was able to split it up into like little beams that could avoid her father. Keep in mind that this is the King of Hybern, who is a much older Fae, and he probably had shields around himself anyway. So, I mean, even if she was using whatever power she stole from the cauldron, I don't think that she could have been able to hit him anyway. And her power would have been too slow. It would have been too slow.
Even Rhys couldn't really fight him. So, and he is the most powerful.
Yeah.
So there was no, again, we know this, but again, self-deprecating, depression, anxiety, trauma.
And I think one thing I do want to say just real quick is that's especially the sign of trauma, or the depression part of it, is the fact that she says she knew it was the King of Hybern, but it was also her fault. So it's like the fact of knowing what the actual truth is, but because of all these insecurities and emotions and the trauma from it, she's convinced herself that it's also her fault as well. She's like, well, I can tell the truth, but there's also probably it's my fault as well, which is something I've seen a lot in a lot of trauma responses. It's like, okay, even if you can tell, even if you know what the truth is, there's a difference between knowing what the truth is and accepting it in its entirety.
Because she also blames herself for not only Elaine, she blames herself for Elaine and for them getting caught, because she stole from the cauldron unbeknownst to her. Again, she was just being a badass and clawing and trying to get out. Because she took something, she caused a lot. Again, I'm not saying she caused it, but that indirectly, in her mind, indirectly caused her and Feyre to get caught by the Ravens in the library. Caught them to, caught Cassian to get hurt. To get Elaine captured when she was scrying, and in the last book, and then got kidnapped for like an hour. Again, sorry.
We'll give her 3 hours.
Okay. Got kidnapped, right? Of course, she feels horrible for that, which we could see that in the moment.
Like, okay, I understand the panic that she felt, just going back to ACOTAR for a moment, the panic she felt of going into the tent and, searching and she's not there, and then going and finding the cloak on the ground.
Or Asriel found it, brought it back, and they were all like, oh.
So I can understand the panic from that, but okay, are you blaming yourself because you saw in the dream that she was walking away? We don't know. How could any of that be your fault directly? You didn't choose for her to do that.
She thinks it's her fault because technically, indirectly, she led the cauldron to their location. If she didn't stay as long in the scrying, then the cauldron wouldn't have touched her and known where they were.
Crack theory is I think the cauldron always knows where they are.
I'm just, again, yes, you are right. That probably wasn't going to, that was going to happen regardless.
Yeah.
But I'm saying in her perspective, and to a certain extent, sometimes trauma and depression there is some right, but not I want to say right, but like logical bits in there.
It takes the logical bits and warps them.
It's technically indirectly something that she did that caused this.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that's her fault, because no one could have thought that.
And there was no intention behind that. There was no predicting of what could happen from what she was doing.
No, but yes, she blames herself for all that.
Yeah.
And it's like hearing it, listening to this in the bath, I was like, bro. So all that shit about her
shower thoughts, bathroom thoughts, bathtub thoughts,
everything that she says that is like other people's fault, which is why it felt so empty. Those like, you brought me into this. She doesn't believe that.
No.
She doesn't actually fault Feyre, at least anymore, I think. And at least in here, she hasn't brought up Feyre once.
I feel like she probably blames herself for getting captured by Hybrid. She's like, oh, I should have fought harder to keep us from the guards. Like that, I wouldn't be surprised if that was her thinking too.
I thought SJM wrote Feyre's depression in Akamath like really well, but this is a whole new level that I think SJM was really good. Because especially this at the beginning, oh shit.
Maybe that's another reason that it's an adult book as well, because we're dealing with adult emotions now.
Because then, of course, in true SJM fashion, talking about something really, really dark, and then Nesta pursuing to do that. Talking about immortality, guess what? I guess it can't make all men good at sex. Immortality does not make everyone good at that.
Which kind of sucks. Like, if you, like, lived for 300 years and then this 25-year-old comes in and she's just like, meh.
It's just kind of good that she's just like, I guess. Okay, as virgins, I'm just saying this, especially as somebody who got, again, if you've listened to us so far, you know this. Growing up in Indiana, there's a level of sex talk is bad. Like, talking about sex. I like how, especially in this book, she talks about Nesta getting to know herself, getting to know what she likes.
Yeah.
And da-da-da. That not only is important, but that is like, I feel like sometimes, especially the real sex or bad, like abstinence guys out there, it's just like, you're touching yourself? It's like, bro, everyone, come on.
Right.
That is a universal truth that we all know, that any of us have either watched or touched or whatever. There is a undeniable, unspoken rule that almost everybody has done it, except for that one pure friend of you, which you're kind of like, are you?
Yeah. It's like, or are you just putting up a front?
Wouldn't you say that's a universal truth that everyone's like, okay, you've at least done one?
Yeah.
I like how she brings that up for Nesta, because she grew up in such a household where it's like, okay, you're basically the princess of your domain. We don't talk about those things.
Right. Also, they had like no privacy to do any of that in the cottage.
Oh my god, that would have been so bad.
Yeah.
That would have been, but now she has time.
And space. She has her own room and everything. But I appreciate it, because we don't, at least I haven't seen many books where they talk about masturbation or self-exploring. Like, that's not someone like Earth. That's not something I often see.
And it's not trying to bring it up in a gross way either. It's just trying to say, like, not that I'm saying it's gross. I'm just saying,
even like movies and TV shows, that's like not something that comes up. It's like you were saying, like, it's like the whole idea of masturbation. It's like, why would you do that? It's like, I don't know, to make it so that I know what I like, so I can make sex better for me and my partner.
Well, it's also like, okay, whenever someone says that, that's where I'm saying about the unspoken rule. I'm like, okay, you're saying you never have? That's bullshit.
If you're saying that, then I don't want to have sex with you. So
are you saying that you have to vet? Have you so you're on a date with a guy, right? You masturbated, right? Like, you're not, okay, good. Like, imagine God saying that to a guy. If you gave me $100, I'd say to that guy on that first date. I would ask that. Yeah, for sure.
But anyway, it's like, so you've masturbated, right? So you like know what you like. So if we ever get to sex, you can know what you like.
I think we'd scare the guy away for sure.
Oh yeah. And if it didn't, well, that's either means he's a psychopath or perfect for you.
Can I just say, I also like how, again, we know that she did lose her virginity.
Yes.
But she's like, nope, lost it to a rando. And then he saw her bleeding and he went, fuck. I was the first person who had sex with Nesta Archer.
The High Lady's sister? I just took the High Lady's sister's virginity.
That is like every person who's ever had sex with celebrity. I was the first person who had sex with Chris Evans. They're just sitting there like, yeah, that was me.
And if it wasn't so good, then oh shit.
God, don't talk it. Dude, if I was some celebrity's first, you'd know I bet I'd throw that at all the parties.
Yeah.
Be like, yep, that was his first.
It would only turn bad if the celebrity in turn was just like, actually, it wasn't that.
He had like an interview. He's like, yeah, you know.
My first time was like, well, we don't talk about that. It wasn't great.
But nobody's first time is.
That's true.
But I love how she talks about the bleeding.
Yeah.
Again, it's very factually true as well. That happens
to
some people. And so she's talking about, again, and like her having sex with people, and then that everyone's kind of been avoiding them. And she loathes Rhys-Ann.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't really say his name too often, but she's like, Rhys-Ann ought to offer her jobs, but she didn't want them. And here's where, again, I was in Rhys's side before this, but I think I'm not saying that her position is sound. I'm just saying it kind of makes sense. They are pity offering. There is nothing that she actually has right now. She has no training, no experience, no people skills. There is no job that he has offered her that she is actually being able to. Everybody has a job and everybody does it well.
And there's like something that like everyone likes as well, and she just doesn't have any of that right now. I like how it says that like Rhys only offered them because Sarah told him to.
He wants what Feyre wants in Nesta in the circle, but with no actual purpose. Also, with just some pity, like, oh yeah, you'll be our human emissary.
Also, I do totally see from Nesta's point of view right now. I mean, we already knew Rhys does not like Nesta either, so it's mutual in that aspect. But Rhys, probably even if Nesta did start showing up to Inner Circle gatherings, Rhys would not enjoy it. Like, he would put on a pleasant face as much as he could for Feyre, but again, that's for Feyre.
Because yeah, I think a part of Nesta's pride, which also makes her very Illyrian and Cassian's probably perfect person, is that there is no skill. Yeah. Like, there is no skill or talent or whatever that she has at the moment. I'm not saying that she doesn't have skill. She could have skill, or she has some hidden thing that she hasn't said yet. But there is nothing. If there gets to a point where there is like a skill or talent, hey, you're really good at this, I want you to do, then that would be fine for her, I think.
She hasn't, so I think the thing is she doesn't explore that at all. She doesn't like want to explore what skills she might have. I mean, I wouldn't say she's content where she is right now, because clearly she's miserable. But
I think the also interesting thing about Rhys, and especially as we get into these in this book, is again, this is a lot of exposition right at the beginning, but I'm just saying, I think what's interesting about her and Rhys is that she agrees with him. That's what bothers her, is that Rhys sees her like she sees herself.
Right.
Which, again, I'm not saying is great, but I'm
that's
saying
not true either, but okay.
She hates herself so much. Rhys hates her, and all the like bad things that she has done, he is like her. He is the living embodiment of her hatred for herself.
So in a way, she feels validated, that she's like, oh, I hate myself. Oh, he hates me just as much. Perfect. I'm valid to feel this way, and then I'm going to stay this way.
And all the things that Rhys believes about her is true.
She's proving them to be true as well. It's like she's living up to his expectation.
Again, I'm not saying, like, again, in Rhys's perspective, it's not like he knows all this. I mean, he could read in on her thoughts, but that's also an evasion.
Yeah.
So that's a hard like line. That's a very different of perspective thing. Because from Rhys's perspective, if that's all you get, that his makes total sense.
Yeah.
And then you see hers and it's like, again, I'm not saying she's doing it in the right way, but that kind of does make sense. Why she hates Rhys so much, but also is not mad at him.
Yeah. She hasn't done anything at the moment to, at least where they are right now, she hasn't done anything to prove that she's any different from Rhys's thoughts of her. I think if she gets to the point where she does actually start trying, then Rhys is just going to be a dick.
Yeah.
He's just going to be a complete prick and an asshole and all that shit.
Don't make me hate Rhys-Ann. This is going to be hard. I don't want to hate Rhys-Ann.
I don't want to hate him either, but at the same time, like,
this is Nesta's POV.
Yeah, we're in Nesta's POV and, going to be in Cassian's. And I don't think Cassian could ever hate Rhys either. No. But I also feel like it's going to maybe become a point of conflict.
It's going to get tight.
Like, because Cass will want to defend Nesta, but then going against Rhys will feel weird as well. So,
and I think what annoys her the most is that she understands and knows why people admire him.
Yeah.
Like, she understands and she's like, I hate you even more for that.
Yeah.
Oh, and I do love how when she keeps going on, right? And she actually gets to see Cassian, she remembers the other Illyrians that died. Like, she keeps bringing that up in these 4 first chapters all the time.
She blames herself for the thousands of deaths of Illyrians.
She blames that, but she doesn't say it right now, but she says it later. I would make the same choice.
Which I admire. That's like a sign of something. Like, it's gotta be. Of like, she hates herself for basically killing those those
like 1,000
1,000 soldiers, killing that legion of Illyrian warriors. She blames herself for that, but I appreciate it. The fact that she's like, well, I blame myself for that, and I'll hate myself again if I do it again, but I would do it again for Cassian.
If I could replay the moment, I would do it again.
I would save Cassian again and again, even if it makes me hate myself even more, I would do it for him.
If I had to save the one over the many. But she probably only could have saved a few. Like, and also, would they have listened to her? Probably not. No. Like, they wouldn't listen to her, no.
They probably, like, I mean, they're dead now, but they probably were like, wait, where's Cassian going? Where he's supposed to be our general, where is he going?
And then from his perspective, again, okay, before we got this in the previous books, of course we were feeling bad for Cassian. Because the way it looks from him to his soldiers is that he abandoned them.
Yeah.
But again, it's a matter of perspective.
Right.
Because from her perspective, she was saving somebody, I mean, at least to me, someone she loves.
Yeah.
Or at least someone she cares about.
Someone she was learning to care, or maybe she didn't even realize she cared about him, but something in her, like, told her that she needed to save his life.
Damn it. And she also, when she talks about him, she's like, she knows he's strong and brave and all these good things, but continues to shut him out because she does not want him in harm's way again. Which that's the whole fucking thing.
Don't be anywhere near me because I could hurt you.
She doesn't want herself to hurt him or her being or whatever to cause further conflict. Because again, there's still conflict in the world, which we get to.
Yeah.
She does not want him to be in trouble. But also, he's going to be in trouble anyway.
He's a general. He is a fighter, a warrior. Honestly, he'll probably pick most of the fights that he gets hurt in.
Yeah.
Like, that's not anything for Ness to control. That's Cassian's own choice.
But of course, this is what this book is for.
That's true.
To get to the root of that. So he comes back, obviously.
With tea.
And he notices that she didn't change the sheets between guys. So it's just...
let's just say I would not want to take a black light to that bed.
I have a virgin question.
Yes.
I don't know much about sexual hygiene, but I'm going to assume that that's pretty gross, right?
Consider how you feel after you work out. That's a bunch of sweat, and then lying in your sweat, and then lying in other people's sweat.
And I'm going to assume more than sweat?
Yes, I'm just using sweat for this because sex makes a lot of sweat, and it makes a lot of other fluids too.
God, that is fucking... I feel like out of anything we have witnessed of her so far, I probably think that that's probably the grossest.
Going from like this prissy, like stuck up,
oh yeah,
to now basically lying in her own secretions
and others.
Yeah.
Good God. Okay, that wasn't necessarily a question, but I was like, I'm going to assume that that's gross.
Yes, that is, especially because it doesn't say how many men that were like in between her changing the sheets.
And we're going to assume a lot.
Because if it's the case of, okay, I'm not, I guess, playing devil's advocate as you put it. Like if it's like 2 or 3 men, maybe. Because she is in the slums, she can hardly pay rent. I can get it if she doesn't, have a way to wash the clothing, or if she doesn't have extra sheets that she can easily get to. That part I could understand. However, if we're going to assume that she like doesn't wash it in between like 20 males, then that is actually, you're gonna get sick. Very sick.
At that point, just fucking get
a new bed.
Just buy new ones. Like, and if you don't do laundry, just put it on the same tab that you've been putting it on.
Honestly, yeah, you haven't even been using your own money. It's all been the Night Court money.
So after all that, like, he makes this night comment, but she's not really talking, and so she gets her stuff together, and I think it's really cute that he makes her wear a scarf before she goes out.
Yeah.
Because it's cold.
She ignores it, and he just reaches over her, plucks it up.
Puts it on her anyway. And she lets it. Whether or not, like, it's like at every moment where she thinks that she's not, or like trying to push him away, there are moments where you can definitely tell that she's letting him in.
Yeah. It's like almost like she can't like completely ignore. Like her thoughts and everything, she'll push him away, and any action she can control, she'll push him away. But it's her body like instinctively like needs him close at some points.
Right. And of course, as they're making their way to the river house for the first time, or at least we're seeing it for the first time, is that I love how Nesta is very much a female Cassian in terms of how general-like she is, which totally made me think, especially at the beginning, I was like, dude, are they going to be like Lady and Mr. General? I wonder if she's going to be a general of an army, of armies.
Yeah. I mean, that'd be cool, like, especially because we know that she already scares the Illyrians at Windhaven.
Dude, she would, yeah.
She could snap them into shape.
I like how Nesta is way more observant than people give her credit for. I think Feyre gives her the right amount of credit for it, but she's talking about the entire, probably, problems of this world. She's like, there's something going wrong with the queens, there's unrest in the world, the Illyrians were, again, she didn't know about that.
Yeah.
But she felt the unrest.
Yeah.
And she talks about, like, the human queens, which, again, seems like they're going to be a problem in this book. When we were talking about who's going to be the next villains, these seem to be the ones that are coming up right about now. They had heard no whisper of the queens from 14 months, but it seems like they are going to be.
Yeah.
So, yes, they make it to the River House estate, and it's badass. It's huge. A bunch of, like, nice decorations, Feyre's paintings everywhere. Yes, she knows how to do a house right, because right as you walk in, it's a fucking grand-ass staircase. I'm like, you know it.
Yeah, yeah. I honestly, it was kind of weird at first, but I kind of appreciated the fact that she has it separated into, like, a business wing and a, you know, family type. You know, she has it split up for different uses, which normally I guess I think of, like, just rooms being for different things of, like, I'm gonna use this specific office for this space and this study to talk with guests and whatnot. But I don't know, I kind of appreciate that of, like, this room, this whole wing is just for business, and anywhere else it's just gonna be a cozy family house, like the townhouse.
Well, that was also the problem in Frost and Starlight, though, because their bedroom was just, like, completely overrun with all their work.
Yeah.
And it's like, I like to have a set space for that stuff.
Yeah.
So it made sense to me.
So they probably have, like, a room just for all the discarded weapons that Reese brings home.
Yeah, for sure. I will say, when Nesta describes how this place looks, I mean, it's very Feyre.
Yeah.
It's very artsy. Apparently there's, like, a bunch of things that maybe Rosina made, or even the Weaver, or, like, other artists from Valaris have made.
On this reread, I noticed that literally all of, like, the furniture and rugs and all that stuff are blue. I hadn't noticed that. And mind you, for our audience, this is actually only my second time rereading it. I mean, I've like gone back to certain parts, but this is going to be my first official, like, reread of the book from cover to cover. And immediately I noticed that, like, all the furniture, like the long rugs that went down the corridors and up the stairs, like, they're all blue. And then all the furniture is blue.
Is it like Night Court, you think? Or
no, it said, well, I think some of it is Night Court blue, but it said, like, there were, like, some pastels. It's, like, just all blue, all different shade blue. But that stuck out to me.
I think I am a little confused by Nesta's reaction here, because up to this point, I've been understanding Nesta's perspective. And I think this is where the Nesta thing is very interesting to me. Because sometimes I'm right there with her in terms of a perspective. And then other times I'm like, where is this coming from? Like, there is no reason for this reaction.
It's a little bit bipolar.
She's so of course okay, first of all, she's mad because it's like, okay, normal people just buy their mates, like, jewelry. But of course, Reese bought her a house. I feel like, first of all, I think that's just bitter jealousy. I think that's just plain as day. I just think that...
Hey, Cassian could do that. He has just as much money.
I know. I think that that's just a little jealousy on her end.
I like that she corrected of, like, actually, no, she bought, like, a destroyed piece of land. Almost like she was like, how could he, like, buy a destroyed piece of land like that? Like, and kick off the family that lived here before. Which I know about, like, payments.
But it wasn't, but, like, he already asked them.
Yeah.
He asked them if they could use the land before they...
But I bet Nesta doesn't know.
No, but she's assuming.
Yeah.
And you know about assumptions.
Yeah. She's probably like, oh, it's just a destroyed land, and they probably only gave it up because he's the High Lord. And
I mean, maybe, but they didn't seem like that.
No.
Though, I think what really gets me is that she's like, there are no pictures of me or my mother in here. Like, the father and Elaine have a portrait, but her and Nesta are not there. And whether or not that's wrong to Feyre, I can kind of understand why that would be a little upsetting. Because, like, if Feyre, regardless of how Nesta and her are doing right now, wouldn't you think that would be something that's up there if she actually did care?
Yeah, I feel like that is a little confusing, that even though Nesta didn't accept the house, she didn't accept the room that she was given there, that at least Feyre would have maybe a painting of the three sisters together or something. Honestly, maybe this is just a crack theory of mine. I feel like she does have a painting of her mother somewhere, but it's probably hidden in a very dark space. But I feel like she would, at least, just considering how long she held on to that promise for her mother in that.
This is where we get a different perspective of their mother from Nesta's perspective. Because again, from Favor's point of view, we got that Nesta's mother doted on Nesta.
Yeah.
And that she was the favorite and da-da-da. First thing Nesta says in this book about that is her father doted on Elaine and Feyre while she was trained by her mother. That was a loaded word.
She did not get doted on.
Trained and prized is what she says. And I'm not saying, but like, I think this is where, when we talked about to our moms in the last episode and last season, I think where your mom kind of hit it kind of right on the head, right? Where she said, I think Feyre likes the idea of Nesta, but that's why she's not there.
Yeah.
Because she's actually not a big part of her life as much as she says that she is.
Yeah. And maybe Feyre wants her to be there, but she's not. She's also not doing much effort, which is kind of like, just like the Lucian Elaine thing of like, they want it. Maybe Elaine doesn't want it. Lucian wants it, but he's not doing anything for it. And Feyre is kind of in the same case here with Nesta. Like, she likes the idea of having Nesta in her life, but isn't actually doing anything to bring her,
or doesn't actually know her enough to be like, yes, I want you.
Yeah.
It's the idea of just the completion of the sisters.
Yeah.
In a way. So again, I do think that her opinions can sometimes get bipolar here of like, okay, where is this coming from?
Yeah.
But the bomb thing, that was like, ooh, that is a sort of miscommunication there that they do not know about. What was I going to say? Though the thing I did feel really mad about was when she talked about Feyre's new family. She keeps talking about, and she keeps bringing this up, that the Archeron family was so bad that Feyre had to go find a new one. And again, as we know from Feyre's perspective, that is not necessarily it kind of is though.
It did become the case. She did kind of replace what scraps of family she had. And now it's like she's trying to drag the scraps of family back into her new family that she's made. But yeah, it's like,
it's a fine line, right? Because yes, it is her new family, but the thing is, Nesta knows that it wasn't a good like, she even brings that up. So I think what I don't stand is the fact that she's just like, why do you dote on this new family when ours wasn't that bad? When she clearly knows how bad it was.
When she clearly hated it.
When she keeps talking about, but it's like the contradictory of, because she thinks it's all at her.
Yeah.
She thinks like, you hate me, you hate the idea of our family, when it actually has nothing to do.
I think it's kind of clear that her emotions are just so confused right now, and like they're all butting heads, which is, I think, why we're getting these contradictory statements, like one right after the other, very bipolar. She can't keep track of them all, and she doesn't know how to cope properly without sex, alcohol, and music.
That's true. So we finally get to see them again from our season. Yes, Feyre, Rhys, and Amren are here.
Yes.
And to be clear, Rhys with no wings, which to us, we know that is probably bad.
It means that he's feeling defensive.
Which is a bad sign, and I love that we know that.
And he's just like, he's standing by the mantle and like brooding, basically.
He's doing an Azrael.
He is. Arms crossed and everything, clearly not happy.
So Amren is looking at Nesta with full-blown disgust.
It's like, okay, what actually happened there?
So she does say that Nesta does say from her perspective that they did have an argument at the end of the summer barge party. And she keeps calling it like self-destruction. Because it seems like, at least from how she describes it, no more chats over jigsaw puzzles, certainly no more lessons in magic. She made sure of that. Which I'm assuming that's what that was about. Amren trying to help her, this is what I'm assuming it is, assuming that she wanted to help her with magic, and she said, I don't want to touch that. No. Yeah. And then Amren got mad and was like, no, we're not going to do this.
Like, okay, you're going to dwindle away your body and everything, and now you won't even touch your magic. I think Amren could tell that her magic was still there.
And I think because we know if she doesn't know how to learn it, it's going to kill her at some point.
And, well, actually, sorry, let me glomp onto that for a moment, and then I'll hopefully get to my other thought. I think it's the whole idea of how Rhys said that, like, like if he doesn't release his magic, his immense magic, he'll go insane.
Yeah.
And while Nesta is not a High Lord, she does have an immense amount of power, which even we don't understand right now, but we know that it's a huge amount of it.
Hell yeah.
But so I feel like if she doesn't deal with it, she's gonna go insane. I mean, she's kind of already going insane. And then my second thought was just, I think Amren could sense that she still had the power other than her wisdom from being 15,000 years old. But I think she could sense it maybe because she had spent time in the cauldron when she, you know, sacrificed herself into it and then was pulled out of the cauldron. She somehow got her own little bit of connection to the cauldron, or at least where she can sense the cauldron's power. Like, that's maybe more of a crack theory, but I feel like that could be the case of like, girl, I know it's still in you. You better not try and fucking lie that it isn't there. You need to learn how to control it or it's going to drive you insane. And Nesta's like, fuck you, I'm not touching that.
Yeah, she knows that she stole from the cauldron and does not want to understand it.
Yeah.
Because she knows it's so off. Because she thinks it's such an awful power.
Because she thinks the cauldron is off.
So she pushed Amren away, and it seems like Amren still actually has some leftover power. We didn't really get that from we did a little bit when she used some lesser magic, but we actually still see the silver in Amren's eyes, which makes me have a big fucking question mark. Again, I'm not getting into any theory this episode, but I'm saying that's something to mark, is that it's shown through the silver.
So I wonder if we'll end up getting any more of what magic she still has.
It's interesting that when they describe the eyes, though, I will say that, is that Amren's are described as nice and warm, and hers are described as cold and deadly, which is so odd because where is that actually? Yeah, Nesta knew her own power could shine like that too, but while Amren's had reveled itself to be light and heat, Nesta knew that her silver flame,
roll credits,
came from a colder, darker place, a place that was old and yet wholly new. Starting with the newborn star thing.
Yep.
Okay. So basically what happened was, oh fuck, Nesta spent a huge bill the night before on wine for probably basically everybody in that tavern and herself. And
or I wonder if it was like a tab that she'd built up over the past couple months and then the tavern finally demanded she pay it. So she finally signed on. What if that was like one that she'd been going to for the 8 months?
Oh god. Whatever it was, they got the bill that morning and they were like, oh fuck, here's the ultimatum.
The final straw.
So it's like, of course, getting here for a scolding. So she like immediately tries to get up. You're not in my discussion. Like, you don't have any say in my discussion. And god damn it, I miss Reese. With the full dominance and like puffed out chest, he's like, sit down. And they are fighting dominance. His magic is trying to overpower her, so to actually physically sit her down. And she is fighting it with every fiber, and like she's shaking and everything.
Yeah. Cassian prepared to leap between them.
Oh yeah, he is ready. And even Rhysand threatens to physically fight her. He said, let's go outside right now. And I'm like,
knowing that she doesn't know how to physically do that.
Feyre is so mad.
Yeah.
She's like, I told you to sit back and shut up. And
I told you I would handle this and that you were not to say a damn word.
I was like, what a good start this is having.
Yep.
Oh, good. It's like, you can either leave or you can stay and shut your mouth. See, and then every time somebody tells me that Feyre is like less so in this book, I'm like, in moments like this one, she is keeping her man in check.
Yeah.
Like,
and we have seen that before where she will tell him when he's wrong.
Yes.
Which I do appreciate because like while she is, most of the time she'll go with what Reese says, she's not afraid to be like, no, you're fucking wrong. Now back off.
Well, also like, again, she might seem like being good cop to Nesta, but also at the same time, like, she has no qualm to put Reese in his place.
Yes.
Be like, no, this is not what we discussed. I told you to sit there and shut up and just be here.
Yeah. Reese is just like, fine.
It's like, we do. But Elaine is nowhere to be found, of course, because, of course, why would that coward be here?
Right.
So basically, Feyre faults herself, goes in this monologue about how she let her be, and that she shouldn't have. She should have been more pressing right at the first. Which, of course, Nesta kind of gets mad.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I think she gets mad whenever Feyre blames herself, because she's like, hey, why are you...
I'm the one to blame. Why are you blaming
Which is so funny when she does that, because it's so contradictory, because then she does blame Feyre in other moments, and it's like, I don't blame you. You blame me all the time.
It's like, you do it to everyone else, but actually in the moment, you're finally admitting blaming, well, she's not actually, but like that it's not Feyre's fault. But I also feel like there's the lingering anger and annoyance of like, why are you blaming for leaving me alone and letting me make my choices? Like that makes it seem like you're thinking that you should have immediately had control over me again.
I also think it's a different perspective when she says, at least I got a different read on it, when Feyre says, I understand what you're going. That was the wrong thing to say.
I think Feyre can understand some things, but certainly not most of it.
And so I think that's where the Nesta train comes in, because I'm like, again, I don't think Feyre, everything, I don't think Feyre is mostly to fault here. I think there's miscommunication enough going on. I mean, miscommunication is going on everywhere, but that she thinks that sympathizing with her like this is going to make the difference.
When has that ever worked, Nesta?
What, sympathy? Sympathy has never worked with her.
She doesn't know that.
You don't have a life, and I'm not going to sit by for another moment and watch you destroy yourself. So here's what is to be done. The ultimatum. Nesta is to go train with Cassian.
Yeah.
Up in the Illyrian steppes. Oh my god. I was like, yep, fall in love. They're gonna fall in love training. And
the close proximity thing.
Oh, the close proximity trope. Oh my god. I got so excited.
I got excited, but at the same time, I'm like, Cassian has a lot of work cut out for him.
Oh boy, this is gonna be hard, isn't it?
It's like my defensiveness of knowing Cassian already as a character and like, getting to know him and all that. Okay, I understand that this is important for their characters, but Cassian is gonna get really hurt at one point, at least one point during this book.
Yeah, this is gonna go
They're
bad.
gonna have like at least one huge fight that is gonna be like their breaking point of like, that's the fight that they're gonna have to get through in order to reach the other side. But I'm just like, I'm bracing because I know that Nesta needs this, and probably Cassian needs it too.
I mean, she's fighting it really hard, but I actually think this is gonna go good.
This is gonna be good for her, but of course, it's only gonna actually help once she accepts it, that it's happening.
Yeah, like, honestly, the only person that could probably deal with her is Cassian.
And the only one that would want to deal with her.
I know, because, God, it's such the Illyrian struggle versus him, there's such a beautiful comparison there.
Yeah.
That he won't give up on his people. He won't give up on Nesta.
No matter how many times she tells him to go fuck himself.
Which is nothing, none of the other guys have that resilience. Like, they would have given up on her right away.
Yeah.
Versus, like, Cassian sees her potential.
Yeah.
And sees the potential for good. And he's not going to give up until, like, immediately it's like, there is nowhere else to go. Oh, it's so beautiful. He's such a good man.
Oh, this is going to be a journey.
Of course, she's like, what? After this meeting, you guys are going to go up to the place that, for the past 2 books, everybody was saying nobody wants to be up at the House of Wind. Guess where you two are going?
The House of Wind.
I love how SJM put it in there for 2 books straight of just, no one likes us. And it's like, they put Nesta there to stay.
They specifically said that the House of Wind is so far away from everything and it's boring and like you can only get there with flying and whatnot. And I'm like, so it's kind of a prison for her, but
I also think I disagree, especially at the end of these chapters. I mean, she does think of it as a prison, but I think it's a matter of perspective.
It definitely.
And I will say that, I will get there, but I love how her ultimatum is she's going to train up with Cassian at Windhaven every morning or whatever. And then she's going to work in the library under the house. And I was so pumped about that. I was like, what are we going to see? I am excited.
She likes books and it's giving her a job, which at least gives her routine, which I've learned that routine is very, very important to doing things. So it's just like, I mean, training with Cassian, that's going to be interesting. But then also like then having a quieter, I know we're going to get into like the ultimatum more, but just the idea that a library is going to be quiet. So it's either going to make her face her thoughts, face herself down in the library, or it's going to be like give her a moment of peace where she's not surrounded by all of the noise of Laris and her thoughts. Maybe her thoughts will go away while she's down there.
I think Feyre said it at some point where it was a good balance of work and then, even though technically working in the library is work, it is that peace and quiet that you were talking about, which I really like. But I love how Cassian was like what?
Yeah.
So the apartments, the seedy taverns, it's all over. So we are in Cassian's perspective, by the way, at the top of this.
Yeah.
So interesting enough about Feyre and Rhysand right now is that Feyre has this shield around her, which is like impenetrable to smell, whatever. And it's interesting because they keep bringing it up to cast like Rhys has this shield around her, protecting her, and apparently it is a test from Helion. Yo, what up, dog?
Thy lord.
from the other High Lord about to maybe protect others, like as an impending, a war thing. And I don't think I questioned it. I think I was just, why? Like, why specifically her, or why? I don't know.
I think it made sense to me that, Rhys was training to make wards, being a High Lord, it'd be important. And training with Mr. Thigh Lord, that would be like perfect. But
wait, did you mean to say that?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought you were actually messing up. I was like, do you know what you just said?
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll stand by it. But being, Helion is probably the best person to train wards with. And having then Feyre be able to check how to break them. I mean, she broke the wards in ACOTAR, so being able to do that. But I thought that it was kind of weird because they're in this moment of peace.
Yeah.
So why I guess you would want to train in a moment of peace so that you can be prepared for war. But it's like, okay, why is this happening now? Is there something that we don't know about that's coming? Is there a war that's coming?
And I think it's Rhys, so I know that he's always is one step ahead of everyone.
That's true.
So I'm expecting, which he does say later, but he's like, I'm expecting some sort of problem.
Right.
Well, at first I thought it was because of Nesta, because they talk about how both him, Rhys, and Cassian were both a little worried with Nesta sitting so close to her that she would just blow up at her.
Yeah.
And I don't think Nesta would ever actually directly try to hurt her. Mm-hmm. She might accidentally get too mad and maybe the power would try to hit it. I think that they're thinking of her too evilly. They're thinking that she would actually directly try to hit her.
Yeah.
When I don't think she would.
I feel like if she had a blow up, it'd be like that moment in the Illyrian Mountains when Feyre blew up hearing about Rhys's mother and sister dying.
Actually, I love that's where you went, because where I went, I was thinking of Tamlin. I was thinking of the study.
Yeah. It probably would be something like that. But Tamlin has anger issues, and Nesta,
and he had 500 years though. She doesn't have that many years. Okay, right. So we give her the doubt for that one.
She's had 2 years of power.
Because I think that's where they misunderstand this. Yeah, I don't think that she's necessarily wrathful to Feyre specifically, because I don't think she sees her as an enemy. Yeah, but she probably could do it by accident.
And like we mentioned, she's a cornered animal. She's feeling cornered right now. So cornered animals do reckless things that they don't mean.
Well, and the fact that Amren had worry in her eyes, it was like, oh shit.
Even Amren's worried,
but it's coming from a place of concern, because Cassian is looking and he's like, damn, Amren's actually worried about me. Yeah. Not in a she's gonna hurt Feyre way, in a, oh god.
I'm actually concerned about Nesta, specifically Nesta's being her person.
Is it funny that Amren did some BS research and lied to her about how she signed, or that she verbally consented to being the human emissary? So she's like, technically,
here's the book, look it up at this page. Throws down a giant
where there actually is probably nothing. Yeah. But Nesta just goes with it because deep down she knows. But
she knows they're right. But she, of course, it's and I relate to this. You don't want to be told what to do. Mm-hmm. And especially when it's something you don't want to do, that's something you've been ignoring yourself, and then now it's being thrown in your face.
I mean, I knew that was complete bullshit though. I was like, she never actually said she was gonna do that. Yeah. She just did that one time at that meeting, and that was it. So I love how Cassian kind of talks about his position, how he got to the general, and I love how sometimes he talks about others, and Feyre. He's like, I've never stopped being grateful for the High Lady for saving my brother from under the mountain. Mm-hmm. And it's how under the mountain is still so traumatic for all of them that they keep bringing it up.
And the fact that it was traumatic for them as well, not just Rhys and Feyre. So I do like whenever we get a perspective of what happened outside of Under the Mountain.
Yeah, it's still, I also really like it when these canon events that we did live through and reread. Yeah, we know that. It's Under the Mountain. Yes, we know. It's not some foreign out of...
Right, we experienced Under the Mountain from Feyre's point of view. And then, I think we talked about it in ACOTAR as well, how it made me feel when Rhys told his perspective of Under the Mountain. And then now, we don't really get the exact perspective, but now Cassian talking about, she saved my brother, which I can never forget.
I really love how Cassian kind of relives this, how they got the bill that morning of, because they were all there, and Feyre burst out crying.
Thank you for explaining, Cassian. I needed that.
Well, and also she's crying because of the bill. And I love how she's crying because, sorry, not love that she's crying, but is that there's been this unknowing, at least we know, at least from Cassian's perspective, this constant fight between her and Rhys about what to do about Nesta.
And Feyre has been and keeping like giving benefit of the doubt to Nesta of like, no, she'll turn around. She just needs time. You know, Reese being like, no, we got to do something about this.
Well, now, yes.
And then
I'm taking my foot down.
This was the final straw when she saw that bill, and it must have been fucking a lot of money
for her to get,
for Feyre to be like, oh, okay, this is the final thing. You are right. This is embarrassing, as Feyre says in a bit of like, it's embarrassing,
and that's her perspective, and that is very valid. Yeah. It is. Again, she doesn't know Nesta's reasonings for doing so, but again, that doesn't excuse one or the other. Mm-hmm. It is a matter of perspective, and this does it really well.
Yeah,
and I love how, just from Cassian's perspective, Reese looks at both Azriel and Cass and says, "We're fixing this."
Yeah,
now, and apparently he had this plan a long time ago.
Yeah,
and oh my god, I'm gonna eye roll so bad. So Elaine just comes in, tootling through the garden. And then just comes and says, all right, I guess we're doing that. Doesn't give any input.
It's like she doesn't even care about Nesta anymore. She's just like, oh, you're doing that? Okay, cool.
She's just like, hey, I'm listening. I guess we're doing this.
Like, sure, whatever you want to do.
And then, of course, we all left to give Reese and Feyre pride.
Because Reese knelt down and, like, wiped the tears away from Feyre's face. They all left to give their High Lord and Lady some space.
So now we're giving, like, the other side of that. And just like, okay, now we gotta leave. Okay.
They're probably gonna have to.
Oh my god. It's kind of funny, though. It's kind of funny getting the other side. Yeah. So, Amryn understands who Nesta is deep down. Mm-hmm. So she knows what this is for her. And it's kind of a foolproof plan in a weird way. So it's like, you know what? There is no... Again, there's a line here. Mm-hmm. It's not like her choice is being taken.
Right.
She is not a prisoner up in this house. If she braves the 10,000 steps to get down to the city, then there is no... She can get out of it, but there's only one way.
Right.
So it's like it's kind of teetering on a level of imprisonment.
Right. And then there's the other option for the ultimatum,
where she could get the fuck out and leave.
Right.
Leave the night court. You will go back to the mortal lands.
Like, you're not just going to another court. You're going back to the mortal lands, and you're Fae, and they still don't like Fae.
They don't want to subject any other High Lord to her. Put her in the spring court. Maybe she'll... God, no, she would tear that place up.
Yeah, she
already
would.
More than
she
it is.
Would not do well.
But, so yes, I love how it's Amryn giving her the ultimatum.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah, you can move up, do this. You're not going to be a prisoner. Can't go into the city unless you take the 10,000 steps.
In which case you earned it.
And it's like, if you follow the plan, we'll reevaluate in a few months. And then, and yes.
I do appreciate they give her a choice, that they give her the reassurance that we will reevaluate in a few months to see where you're at, rather than you're stuck here forever.
But then again, in Nesta's perspective, I see the betrayal in this.
Yeah.
Of the, okay, you guys were talking about this behind my back, and now all of a sudden just made this for me, and then just kind of threw it out. Like, there was no threat before.
And there was no including her in this conversation.
They let her go unchecked, and there was no threat of this. Mm-hmm. There was no, like, hey, if you don't do better, we're gonna kick you out, or we're going to subject you to this.
It was like a one-time real.
So, in that way, I kind of do understand her upsets. Mm-hmm. But again, she needs it. So again, how awesome is this book that, like, there is not really a clear side in this.
Yeah.
It is so
you can
very...
see every side.
Over. Yeah.
And that's why we keep this, like, but again,
we have
on
to.
the other hand.
Because if you think about it, there really is two sides of this.
Probably a bajillion sides.
And of course, she doesn't want to go back to the human lands because she'd probably kill everyone in sight. And also, human men are at sex. And so...
Probably their music sucks too.
Their music probably does suck. I'm sorry.
And their alcohol would still be really cheap too.
So apparently, when they were talking about this earlier, is that Amryn said that they should put her in the Court of Nightmares. And I was like, you want to put her in a dungeon in the Hewn City? Why? Like, that's not going to get her anything. That's just going to scare the shit out of her, and also
make her hate you guys even more.
Probably. And being in the human lands is prison enough, because she hates it there.
Yeah.
She said that before.
She hated it before she was even Fae.
Though I did say in my notes, I was like, hey, yo, you can go, like, get up the Band of Exiles. Maybe they'll add you to the ranks and add you to the house roster.
I mean, she would have been exiled for sure. Exiled from...
Sexile.
Oh my god. You're proud of yourself for that one, aren't you?
Yeah, that was a good one. That was actually pretty good. Yeah. I didn't even write that one down.
Good job.
I think I heard that from a video game. I wasn't even original. I'm sorry. So of course, Nesta's just kind of listening to this, and yes, these are your only options. Of course, Nesta gets defensive. It's like, you dragged me into this.
And we're back to that.
Again, we're back to that. And Feyre flinches, and of course, Reese,
he's like, I'm gonna speak up again, and she's like, don't you fucking dare.
Gets all alpha wolf
wolf on him. And
it's like, that's it. You're going up to the house. And dude, I like how she puts her foot down, Feyre, finally, because like she knows that she got wounded by what Nesta said again. But then she's like, no, that's not gonna cut it. I love how Elaine backstabbed Nesta so hard that she's like, actually, no, Elaine is actually at your house packing your things right now.
Not even just that, Elaine agreed to it this morning. Elaine is actively at your house packing up quote unquote, all of your
Not that you actually have that much.
Right. Imagine Elaine in that slummy apartment.
God, she's probably just sitting there like, ugh.
Is this like a guy's boxer?
And she's just like, what if the Wraiths were with her? What if Noelle and Caradwen were with her? And then she's just like, they held the black light up to the bed, and Elaine's like, what is all that?
Or like she starts going for the bed to change the sheets, and the Wraiths are just like, no, don't touch that.
Do not touch that. That is toxic waste at this point. Dude, Elaine does a full 180. Like, Nesta's like, well, what about Elaine? It's like, no, Elaine's packing your shit right now.
She agreed to it. She's already kicking you out. So the fact that like they're gonna tear down the apartment, down the apartment to turn it into like a place for people without homes.
Again,
Jack.
We haven't got to that, but I did want to bring that up.
Sorry, I jumped ahead.
No, it's okay.
But that just was like, okay, this is serious. Like, you're not going back to that apartment because it's not going to be there.
Okay, I'll save my thought when we get. But Cassian has no qualm telling Nesta for sure that this was his idea. He's like, no, this was all my idea.
Because I feel like that's what he has done up to this point, is he takes on all of Nesta's anger and fury. Mm-hmm. He directs it all at himself so no one else gets hurt.
We're going to have a wonderful time together.
I believe you.
And I think it was Nesta wanting to speak to her sister alone. Because again, throughout the entire books, we've gotten this thing from Nesta about how she, Feyre says, oh, I wish maybe I should have had Nesta alone. Well, maybe that would have been better. But again, from Feyre's perspective, why does at this point, since she has been disrespected consistently by her sister, why does she feel like she's owed anything?
Right.
To give her the space or to do this in a private setting. Apparent to Feyre, Nesta has lost the right to have the privacy and to have her needs met.
Yeah.
When it comes to being told how this is going to be.
Yeah.
And I get that. It doesn't seem, even Cassian to a certain point sees like, I hope at some point she realizes that we're trying to help her. Mm-hmm. But right now, it totally doesn't seem like that. This seems like punishment.
Absolutely. Because the way that you've been spending your life so far for like the past 2 years, basically, is now you're being completely uprooted and told you can't do any of that anymore.
Exactamundo. Though I will say, as we switch to Nesta's perspective, of course, like I said, she's mad that they're talking about her behind her back, which, I mean, I feel like anybody would.
No.
Because they're talking about, and especially as Nesta puts it, talking about her insecurities, the thing that she already beats herself up for.
Yeah.
And she knows that they're talking about her behind her. And that just further cements what she already thinks about herself.
Not just talking about her behind her back, but making decisions for her, which is another huge thing.
This is crazy. When I read this the first time, I was like, ooh, you didn't care. Why now? It's not that I didn't care. She was going to explain it to Feyre. After the war, she was going to explain why she kept her distance. And she was going to explain it to Feyre, not to anyone else. She says Feyre in here. She says, had never found the words to explain why she put the distance between them all. Elaine had been stolen, saved, yet this terror still gripped Nesta, waking and asleep. So the fact that she was even going to tell her, again, do we fault for her timing? I mean, yeah, like in this seemingly sequence of events that is partially to blame, but also the fact she was going to tell her and that they're deeming her specifically unfit. That's what she doesn't like.
Yeah.
But the fear of having something happen to them again won out.
Yeah.
In terms of wanting to tell Feyre anything. Because she is still worried that something's going to pop out of the woodwork, which it always does.
Yes.
That is going to kill them.
Yeah. She's very scared.
But what Nesta doesn't know is, and that didn't have a Reese to tell her, is that there is always going to be something. And she doesn't get that. Because she thinks it's all about her and that, but at some point, it's not going to be about you at all. It's just going to be some fucking anonymous threat that is
you'll
going
probably
to
just
happen.
Randomly get caught up in it.
Because you are you, and you guys are the court of dreams. Like, that's going to happen.
Right.
It also seems like the confrontation that her and Cass had at the winter solstice did bug her, which obviously it would. He came at her hard. Talking about, like, you should try this year.
Well, those words certainly linger.
Then go somewhere else. I have nowhere to go.
She should have said it.
which is so wild because when she talks about that, that's so similar to Feyre, isn't it? But in a different way. She talks about how she never had a home. She says that later when they go up to the House of Wind, and she talks about how like cottage wasn't a home, the home before that wasn't a home, the home after Tamlin wasn't a home. She says, I've never felt like home, which is the same thing Feyre said. They're so similar, but they also just don't know it.
In a way though, I mean, yes, I absolutely 100% agree with. I think it's interesting though, the fact that Feyre said that she never had a home, and Nesta is saying that she had nowhere else to go. Because with Nesta saying that, it suggests that she's not even looking for a home. She just does not actually have a place where she thinks she belongs. So it's not even about having a home, but like there is no house or like physical place that she could go to where she would be able to survive.
And it doesn't seem like she has any fucking friends like Feyre did, so...
She really has no support system and doesn't allow herself to have a support system.
And she doesn't want to. She knows she'd be a pariah there. I mean, there already is so much just unrest.
Yeah.
And it's not like she's got two humans on her side like Lucian does.
Right.
So... I do like, again, these moments of sassy Nesta coming out that I do laugh at, is that when she talks about, like, the money to our money, she went, your mate's money, you mean?
It's like, no, technically it is Feyre's money.
But it is his money.
It
is, because technically that place does not make any money.
Yeah, that's...
I'm not saying...
That is the charity thing.
I'm not saying Nesta isn't the right about this, because obviously they have talked about, Rhys has no qualms calling it our money, but that's them. There is a level of she is right.
Yeah.
It is his money.
She married into the money.
But that doesn't, she's bringing up, she is deflecting.
Yeah.
That has nothing to do with what they're actually talking about.
She's just trying to wield her words as she always does. And not really to hurt Feyre, but basically turn the negative attention away from her.
It's petty. Though I will say that it's interesting when Feyre starts talking about, I've said Feyre when I meant Nesta. I really appreciate, and that kind of blew, there was like so many instances in this book. I don't know if anyone else felt this way, where like Nesta said like a bombshell perspective that I was like,
we never would have thought of it.
I didn't even see it like that. She was talking about the end of the war when they all held hands and stuff. She was saying that Feyre doesn't know how close Nesta came to feeling happy that she was part of this family until where they were all holding hands and then everything went to shit and was torn apart afterwards.
Yeah.
It's fucked up, but it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
That's where it changed for her.
Because that was a moment where she's like, this could actually be my family. I can see this. And then she nearly lost the most important one.
And Rhys said that. If we think back to the to that monologue he had. He said, welcome to the family. Which is the same thing that Moore said when Feyre felt like she was after they came back from their mating.
Yep.
It was the same thing. And Nesta really felt like it, and that's why she sacrificed herself in the war. She's like, I will sacrifice it to save them because of this, but it fucked up and she just went the other direction, and they don't see that because everything above the surface it's like the iceberg meme. It's like they see that and that's all they see. They see the pointed edges, but all of this underneath is just buried.
3/4 of the iceberg are underneath.
Wow. Her power had not been enough to save everyone. That is what she wholeheartedly thinks, because it's like, okay, if she does have this big power that she's supposed to learn, which she did in the war. She actually did work with Amon, right? The reason she doesn't want to now is because if that power is so great and powerful, why did it not save everyone?
Right.
Which is this, and you know what? Fucking same thing that Rhys thinks all the time, isn't it? They are so similar and they don't even realize it.
It's also, both of them can't seem to realize that they can't save everyone.
Can't.
And if Rhys can't save everyone and he's so powerful, Nesta hardly understood any of her power. So no, she couldn't have saved everyone, even with her power.
And just like Feyre and Rhys said about Hybern, how they got at their core about who they were, like he did the same fucking thing to everybody else.
Yep.
Knew what everyone really believed and thought, but also Nesta didn't have the protections like Feyre did. The kind of character development she had at the time to kind of go through that and or power through it. Because imagine Feyre a book earlier trying to deal with all that shit.
Yeah,
she would have been the same way, sort of.
Yeah, pretty close.
So apparently 500 golden marks was what was that one night. Again, I don't know their standard of money, but I'm going to assume that is a lot.
Yeah, it's probably similar to like bronzes and silvers and golds. So.
In my head, I'm thinking that's $500,000.
Yeah, probably. Which is a lot on wine.
That's $500,000 right there.
Yeah.
Like that because that must have time. There's no way.
Yeah.
Unless she was paying for all of fucking Valaris that night. There's no way that happened in one night.
No. and at a seedy tavern like that, where they probably actually don't pay
It's
that,
cheap.
It's probably cheap wine too. I'm gonna guess it was a tab that she had open for the entire 8 months.
Yeah, that's true. So Nesta's upset that Feyre uses the word family for them, for the Court of Dreams, but for her friends, but not for them.
Mm-hmm.
Like my family, because that quote that she has is she's do you know how embarrassed I was when we got the bill this morning? My friends, my family had to hear about it.
Mm-hmm.
Why, if Nesta is your family, why are you saying my family?
Yeah.
Again, from Feyre's perspective, why should she give a shit about how Nesta feels right now? But
also, I think it's the fact that Nesta brought up the word family first before Feyre even did, which is why I think Feyre said it that way, of like, my friends, my family, because just before that, Nesta was saying, oh yeah, like caring so much for your sad little human family. It's like, okay, Nesta, you kind of brought that one on yourself.
And then again, that's where I don't really agree with Nesta. It's like, you talk about how so shitty your guys' family were, like, you don't, there's no leg to stand on.
Right.
Because right now, like, you know how when we talk about how, like, sisters are more than blood?
Mm-hmm.
For me right now, it's almost like her sister's a burden because they're in blood. Mm-hmm. If you weren't my sister, I wouldn't be trying so hard.
Right.
That is how this feels right now. You are not somebody in a relationship or a friendship that I would want to get to know.
It's
if
like,
you weren't shackled
because you're my blood sister, I feel obligated to do this.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you weren't, then I would just let yourself do this. Like, I'd feel sad, but there would be nothing telling me to take care of you.
And then I love how another thing that triggers Nesta is when Feyre says, if my sister cannot be controlled, then why should we have the right to rule over anyone else? Which is a valid thing for Feyre to think. But also, doesn't that sound eerily similar to Tamlin?
Absolutely. If I can't control if I let one person go at the tithe without paying, then everyone's going to think that, and then it's going to undermine me. And then now we're here, it's like...
Wow, Feyre is getting a taste of her own medicine.
Yeah.
That is bad, isn't it? And she doesn't even know it.
And of course, Nesta wouldn't notice it, but...
She's like, I am not a thing to be controlled by you. And this is where I love this thing of control. Mm-hmm. Because then that's when we get into the fact Liesl said, it's okay, you did it early, it's fine. That her buildings are being condemned.
Yeah.
And they're building it, which in a good way, it is being built for people who's been displaced and whatever, like in the Feyre way. Doing something nice and charitable and very like high lady-like. From Nessa's perspective, it's taking the one choice, whether or not we agreed with it or not.
It was her choice.
The choice to stay at that place, to do what she wanted, finally, apparently Feyre has no idea about the mom. Mm-hmm. So in that way, there is a miscommunication on her end. Because I feel like if she knew that, there'd be a level of understanding here.
Yeah.
But she never had a choice.
Yeah.
And that choice got taken away.
Yes.
So that's what bothers her more than the building being condemned. It has nothing to do with the building itself or the apartment or anything. It's about...
Right.
And now they're taking her choice completely away and saying, I mean, they are giving her a choice, but they're giving her a really shitty one.
Yeah. So instead of like, she made this one choice to live there, but even more so now that they're making her, they're saying, no, that was a bad choice. You can't do that anymore. And now you can't make any other choices that you might want to do.
And whether or not from their perspective and what we've said before, though, I mean, we were victims, or not victims. We were people who said that too. She's making some dumbass choices.
Which she is. But again, the perspective, we didn't realize that, we didn't know exactly Nesta's perspective with the mother.
Control was something that triggers her so quickly.
Yeah. And, the loss of the control. And yeah, her choices were bad, but at least they were her choices that she made of her own free will. And, well, I guess kind of necessity as well. But I do like what, okay, actually, I have mixed feelings about Feyre saying you're going to train and learn to control yourself so no one else can. But it's like, I feel conflicted for that because it is a good sentiment, learning to control oneself. But at the same time, I don't think it's the right way to go about this, of taking away her control of what she wants to do and then telling her that she has the option to control herself. That part is contradictory.
And I think at this point, what is going to work though?
Right.
I think from Feyre's point of view, I think that's why it hurts her so much to do this.
Yeah.
And that's why she's being sort of nice about it, whilst the others are kind of being, I don't give a shit how you feel.
Yeah.
That Feyre knows that this is bad in a way, but she's trying to lighten it.
Yeah.
But
I think it's also important for Nesta to see that even though Feyre is trying to lighten it and trying to take off some of the weight of it, I think for Nesta to see Feyre actually put her foot down, that's going to be an important thing, because I've gotten away with so much, spending all of their money and drinks and drinking all the time, and now the one person I could count on to let let me do those things to ignore me and everything is now telling, like, seriously, she's being angry with me.
And I do feel from Feyre's perspective, though, at some point it's like, what is going to work? Something's going to have to give. And if there has to be some sort of forcing on her part, at least a little bit at the beginning, to see that she's going down a good path with this, so be it.
If Nesta ends up, it's like, maybe Feyre's thinking, if Nesta ends up hating me for a little bit, it's going to hurt. But if it leads to her being able to be better, if it leads to her healing, then I will carry that burden.
I think she knows that. Though I will say, when it's training with Cassie, I was like, they're gonna fall in love fighting. There's gonna be a good training scene where he's gonna fall on top of her, or he's gonna like, I knew that. I was like,
or a training scene when she finally beats him and he's like, oh my god, that's so hot.
She's gonna feel like his powerful length or something, like
his warrior's length.
Oh my gosh.
To one of your better Freudian slips.
It was so bad, but also at the same time, she has described it like that before. It was just a misslip. Though I will say, it's interesting how Nesta describes it, though, when she talks about Feyre didn't seem to care. Feyre had always been her own master, always got whatever she wished. And now it seemed like Feyre would be granted this wish too. In Nesta's mind, even though it's kind of a jealousy kind of thing, obviously she's, okay, Hamilton, know this. This reminds me so much of the Schuyler sisters, so clearly. That's how I describe Nesta very hard. She was the one that was supposed to marry for wealth and power and gain for advantage. Whilst as Feyre, being the youngest, got to do whatever the fuck she wanted. And there was no repercussions for her. Like, she didn't have to do anything. I mean, even though we know that she kind of stepped up to the plate, that was also her own making. Nesta, I think at the same time, envies her for being her own master and not letting people tell her what to do. And for her to do her own stuff and take initiative. It's like, I think that's why she hated her a little bit at the beginning. Because she's like, I hate that you took this upon yourself versus I just let hate fuel me and I didn't do anything.
Where I was just content to sit around hating our father while you went out to feed us.
Yeah, and so, but also the fact that if we're talking about the mother, and very much in a, talking like a Bridgerton style society, or if we're looking back in like the 1700s, that's what happened. The elder sister got trained to do whatever, the mid sister got to kind of marry for love, and then the younger sister had to take care of the household. That's kind of how it was. So I'm not saying that, again, Feyre had to weigh with her lot in life. That's what you have to do. But Nesta at the same time envies that, but doesn't communicate why that bothers her.
Which leads to things like this.
So Elaine doesn't want to see Nesta until she's ready. So basically Feyre says, because Nesta's trying to get away, she's like, I want to see Elaine before we go. She doesn't want to see you. She will come up and see if she wants to.
Elaine being wishy-washy and a coward.
Yeah, but why would you, dude, you pushed her away. Why would you want to see her all? What is she going to do to help?
Also, I just think that would be a bad idea. They'd probably fight because Elaine would be like, no, I think you should do what Feyre says. That would only cause more drift anyway.
Oh, yeah. Ooh, sorry. I was trying to read my note. I was like, here's where it gets fucky for me. Nesta is mad because it was always like them against the world. Like, here's where like the other thing comes in. Where it's like Elaine and Nesta were together at last. It was them for a long time. And now all of a sudden Elaine is quote unquote siding with Feyre like Amren. And I don't think Nesta doesn't like that people are siding with Feyre. She does not like that they're siding against her. At first I didn't get it because I was like, why do you this isn't a sides thing. This is a right and wrong what you're doing. We're not necessarily siding with Feyre about you, but
we're agreeing that what you're doing is not healthy.
But Nesta is taking it as now it's you against me.
Right. As in Feyre is thinking one thing and wants one thing and you're agreeing with her without knowing my side. But even then, Nesta's not making it easy to know her side.
Or especially from Elaine and Amren's perspective, the only reason they are quote unquote siding with Feyre on this is that they do care and want her to succeed.
Probably more than Feyre actually does.
So, since apparently Elaine and Amren know Nesta best. So, she's living in this also level of trauma, anxiety land, and where she's taking that and running with it.
And she's considering it a betrayal. Because why would her two people that she was kind of close with, like, just turn on her all of a sudden?
And I love how when she gets to the end of this, especially at the end of the chapter, Feyre basically, you don't think I know why you pushed Elaine away? We don't want to talk about it. But she says, she formed these tenacious bonds with Feyre over a common goal. protect Elaine and save the human lands. And she says, Nesta didn't bother replying and Feyre didn't speak again as she departed. There was nothing to bind them together anymore. That is exactly what your mom said, and she was right on.
Yeah.
They had nothing to build their relationship off of except for protecting Elaine. And the thing is, we talked about that throughout the books, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, the thing that they can, bond over is Elaine, and that's going to kind of be the tether between them.
Mm-hmm.
But what about when that goes away?
Right.
Again, we're getting the answer to that. There was no relationship of theirs to build off of.
Mm-hmm.
But now that it's gone, of their tentative truths, now they got to rebuild the relationship from the ground up and see what they actually like about each other and respect.
Right. Rather than having one shared object or person.
Mm-hmm. Now they got to build their relationship from scratch based on nothing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so again, moving on to chapter 3, we're in Cassian's POV again, and we are in Rhys's swanky office space.
Fancy. His new office.
I love how Cassian describes it because he's sitting there drinking fucking tea.
Why is he drinking so much tea?
Maybe the whiskey's out.
Yeah, maybe.
And this is where he has a model of the universe in his office.
That sounds cool.
That tells time and the position of the sun, and he made this ages ago.
Mm-hmm. Imagine just a teen Rhys of, I wonder if I can make a
planetarium, whatever it would be.
An interactive map of the world.
Which is very interesting because they talk about the stars and the planets. I'm like, planets?
Mm-hmm.
I thought this was just one. This is a whole universe.
They're aware of planets.
I didn't think that was, I thought that was far beyond the fantasy realm thing.
Because it's not very sci-fi, so.
Mm-hmm. Allowed Rhys to ponder the existence of life beyond their own world. And
just Rhys brooding and staring at the model.
As somebody who read everything up to this point and then was reading this book, I was like, multiverse. This was never confirmed, and I'm not saying it is confirmed, but I'm saying, again, I'm not quoting any, but what I'm saying is I looked at that and was like, multiverse. It's talking about planets and their place in the world and other life. What else would that mean? Come on. I mean, they already know that other life exists because Amryn.
Right.
So it's interesting. But anyway, moving on. There's books, paintings. She's good. Yeah. Apparently, for anybody who says that Feyre isn't a good painter.
But she's actually bad.
Cassian actually has a whole monologue about how he's like, Feyre paints in a way that's pressing.
Yeah.
And in a way that I've never seen anybody do it.
He actually describes it, how it makes him feel emotions and, the brush strokes and everything. So it's if Cassian, out of all, I feel like Cassian in his monologue would be yeah, Feyre's not good at it, but we always tell her she is. I feel like he'd be the kind of person to say that, but the fact that he's not kind of suggests.
So basically the one he's talking about is that she let him watch her paint. And actually she was painting her ribcage when she was thin.
Yeah, her starving ribcage.
And he's like, out of all the people, like they said in book 2, Cassian would be the one to understand that, and Azrael to a certain extent. And I was like, dang.
And she let Cassian watch.
I know.
And I just imagine Cassian going into her studio just hey, can I watch? I have nothing else to do.
She's like, don't be perv. And then he's let her actually let him in.
Yeah.
I think what's actually good about what he says is that he's like, I can't believe we were so close to losing her before we even knew her. Mm-hmm. Which is kind of how Rhys feels, but this is where you feel it in the very friend way.
Yeah.
Also, the fact that Rhys has this big fucking oak desk with Feyre's portrait just behind him, watching over her.
Yeah.
Is funny to me.
Just not even just of them together, but just Feyre.
Yeah, just Feyre. And I love how Rhys's first thing is, you ready for Nesta? Hell no.
No one's ready for Nesta.
But of course, Cassian, with the swaggering impotence of a 5-year-old, is, I've gotten warriors in shape before.
Well, first of all, he considers Nesta a warrior.
Mm-hmm.
If he says it like that.
He says, I can handle her. No, you cannot.
But to be fair, I don't think she can handle him either. I didn't even mean it like that.
The only reason I'm saying that is because she's been slutting around town. And I'm not saying slutty in a derogative term. Yeah. I mean sort of in the same, I guess, yes, I'm not saying it in a derogative term. But so apparently from the last book, this is where it kind of blew my mind because I was, especially with Frost and Starlight, I was thinking all these things where is this going and where is it? Apparently they are trying to solve the Illyrian threat right off the bat, which I didn't really believe, but also at the same time went along with it.
Yeah.
So apparently Cassian got the Illyrians in line from the last, because it's been 8 months, right? Yeah. The blood right happened. And what's so funny is that the guy Callian, the one who brought up that we were like, oh yeah, that's gonna really happen, he's gonna be a real big threat, went out like a bitch in the blood right. No longer a threat anymore. He's dead.
And he can't spread any more rumors.
And so they stopped the Grublings in the camps and rose people up in the ranks. So Cassian did a really good job at putting that really quickly.
Yeah. Rhys almost seems proud proud.
Yeah, and he's like, as peaceful as a warrior race can be, which is not very.
Yeah, but pretty good.
But will it last, though?
Probably not.
That's the question that I was thinking. I was like, they're trying to solve this really quickly, but I don't think that's going to happen.
No.
Especially with Nesta up at the camp. No way.
No. They're already wary of her.
She's like the alpha female that's like, this is what we're talking about. These are the type of women you need to stay away from. This is what happens when you think.
Right.
She's like the antithesis of everything they believe in.
Right.
So apparently, for Reese, the Illyrians were a test, which is funny because somehow Cassian knew that, but I didn't think that.
No.
I was like, a test for what? I didn't think that Cassian would have any ambitions outside of being in general because I thought that was kind of it.
His ambition was kind of to, just maybe like make them accept him. But other than that, he's kind of just been living life.
But when they start to talk about it, I do see that Cassian does hesitate, right?
Mm-hmm.
About like, don't you want something more? A bigger responsibility. Nesta's not a test. She's way different than that. That's kind of like an on the side job. Like, also, did anyone really think her powers were gone?
If they did, that was stupid.
That is stupid to think.
That's ignorant.
Also, the fact that Reese is afraid of her. I mean, we knew that, but also him saying it out loud proves just how much he is our Reese still.
Yeah.
He's not going to be afraid and just be like, nah, I'm not afraid of her. No, he's afraid of her.
And very much. He'll be honest about it with Cassian.
Mm-hmm. Which is what makes Cassian her equal.
Mm-hmm.
Because Cassian isn't afraid of her. He's afraid for her.
Yeah.
There's a difference. I just love their bit of conversation of like, okay, so Cassian has this flashback, right, of what the bone carver, R.I.P., said
Miss him.
when the prison, when he said, what did you bring back or whatever, or what did you bring back from Hybern? And he still thinks that. What did he bring back? That's bad.
What did you pull out of the cauldron? What did the cauldron spit out?
Why do you think I sent you to her this morning? Because they all know, whether or not they think it, that he will not get hurt by her.
Yeah.
That she will not hurt him.
She can.
Mm-hmm.
Well, technically she can, but he won't let it bother him too much.
Okay, this is such a Cassian Reese moment, but I almost spit out my water earlier. Because she said, don't want that maid of yours to find any soft bits. And Reese is like, she doesn't find any soft bits when I'm around.
Except his heart.
Though I will say, it is so funny that, again, Reese is kicking out everybody in the state to
apologize to his mate.
Okay, that's the way to say it. But we know what really is going to happen.
Oh, yeah.
And I love how we're getting Cassian's perspective, because his feelings are for real, though.
Yeah.
For all you single Pringles out there, okay, there's a part of us, whether or not, like I say this to all my friends in relationships, I'm so happy that you're happy.
Mm-hmm.
But there's also a level of, oh my God, why can't I have that?
Yeah.
And it's not even a level of envy. It's more of because envy would be like, why do you have it and I don't?
Right.
It's more of, I want that.
Longing.
Why can't I have that yet? And the thing is, I feel like he wanted it with Nesta, but he doesn't see that future anymore for them.
Mm-hmm.
So he's depressed.
Yeah. Because Nesta, in his mind, is going to absolutely hate him for this.
Especially now. Can I just say this quote, though?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes Cassian saw that mating ring and the portrait behind the desk in this house and just ... wanted.
He wants a big house.
Baby.
He wants a ring. And he just wanted.
Well, they got the house, they got the girl.
Yeah.
All you need is the ring and the relationship and the months of emotional trauma that you guys are going to bring each other.
Right.
to the slow burn romance.
And then just sprinkle a little bit of training in there.
So basically, this book also is setting up Cassian as having more potential in his role in the Night Court. So Reese wants Cassian to find out what the human queens are up to, because apparently, especially as we get into what Moore says later, is that they are stirring, which we knew.
Yeah,
they weren't done. But they're scheming again. But Cassian, as a courtier, talking to people, that makes so much sense, but also he doesn't think it.
It's gonna take some practice to get the right wording down, but he's been around Reese for his entire life, pretty much. So I think he has picked up a few tricks.
I think he's the most unlikely person for the job, but the best person to do it. Because he's actually very genuine about it. Mm-hmm. And, he doesn't play around, obviously, but there is a sort of level of courting. When they say a courtier, there is a sort of level of politics that you have to play.
And I think he is more approachable in that sense.
Oh, yeah, he's so extroverted.
Which, it almost feels better that he's not so good at it, or he hasn't really done much, because, no one will necessarily expect it. Mm. But then, he's so personable, and they'll get used to it. And I think it goes against kind of, the common meme that goes around in the ACOTAR world, ACOTAR fandom, of, Cassian's an idiot. A lovable idiot, a him himbo, but an idiot. And it's just like, well, this is kind of going against that because, yeah, he actually is really smart. He's emotionally intelligent. And I think once he gets through like the first awkward meetings, like he's actually going to find he's really good at it, and he's good at storing the information and sorting things out.
I viscerally hiss at anybody who calls my man an idiot, because he is the most actually probably in tune with everybody.
Yeah.
Then.
Which is, I think, why he's just so relaxed and living life for the most part, because he's just so in tune with himself and everyone around him.
I know. He's went through his deeds.
Yeah.
But again, he doesn't claim that he knows it all.
Yeah. He's humble for the most part.
But then he can also be like a big arrogant asshole.
Oh yeah.
And I like that. I dig that.
He has a little bit of an ego sometimes.
It's
confidence.
When it comes
to his muscles.
But also his muscles, like, come on now. Like,
you gotta show them off.
There's confidence and then there's delusion, bro. And his is definitely confidence.
He has the muscles back.
Okay, let's stop. I'm gonna go on. So anyway, Moore is coming back from Valahan today, which again, update on Moore. Yeah, she did leave. Mm-hmm. She's been rumping around the continent, but specifically that territory. There was something, I have to look back in ACOTAR because I don't actually remember, but it was like Valahan and that trio was like one of them had the money, one of them had the resources, and one of them had the men. Mm-hmm. I don't know if they were the money, because out of that trio of like Hybern loyalists, like one of them was kind of had more sway. Yeah. I feel like that's them. I don't know if they had the money, but
it's probably where they would start, the one that has the most sway anyway, like just logistically.
Like one of the other two would kind of follow, so maybe they're starting there.
So Moore's been playing her part as diplomat.
Yeah, like we said in the last book. And so it's like, okay, so he's to deal with the queens and then Nesta
at the same time.
It's gonna be a long months.
Yeah, that's gonna be a roller coaster.
I do love how, though, because again, we do keep in Cassian's perspective when we're seeing Nesta again, and I love how the first thing he notices is that Feyre's like little tint of a smile. It's like, yeah, you know you're about to have sweaty sex with your mate. Yeah, and he's like,
she knows.
Good thing we're coming. Good thing we're fucking leaving. Because what is it? There's like actual good quote. He'd probably have to fly to the sea itself not to hear Reese or feel his power when, okay, bro, I'm stopping. It's like
the fact that they've talked about like how when they were younger and like how they bedded females together often in the same room at the same time. I'm like, okay.
Again, virgin question. Wouldn't that be awkward?
Depends on how close you are.
I don't care if it's my best friend.
Yes, that would be awkward for me. But I think with the three of them who grew up in an Illyrian, well, not a war camp, but just an Illyrian village, basically, like,
I don't think there's an excuse they can give. I think it's just...
I feel like for them, it wouldn't necessarily be awkward because they were so damn horny. They just took whoever they could, and it was often probably in the same room.
I guess, but I just, like, okay, they can get away with it, but I feel like when people in normal day and age do it, I'm like, no, please, God. At least have some sort of barrier. At least be in a different room. They can maybe be in the same house, but
depends
like...
Depends on if they were voyeur or not.
God. No, that's not me.
No.
Sorry, that just got me off on like thinking, okay, I'm gonna... Okay.
Stop it.
But yeah, no, that's hilarious that they had sex in the same room. That's crazy. But I guess hot in a way.
Giving each other tips.
It's hot. Like, I can imagine he's just like, bro, you're doing that wrong. Come on. Like,
no, like this.
Oh my God. But yes, Moore is back to one of them up to the House of Wind, because obviously Thayer is not going to do that. And I love how observant Cassian is in noticing that Moore is upset. Like, her eyes are dark or whatever, and Nesta doesn't speak to anybody. Yeah. But as soon as she hears that Cassian got promoted to a courtier, I hate how his first thing is, when she looks up at him, surprised and wary, which makes, I think the wary in her eyes is like, oh shit, what did he ask of him?
Yeah.
Kind of worried for his safety, I think.
Probably.
But then he says, still a bastard born nobody, don't worry. Oh no, because he actually believes that, but then also, like, she doesn't believe that though.
Yeah.
But she's
been the one to constantly call him that.
But the fact that from her perspective, he still thinks that. It's like, she's getting a taste of her own medicine.
Yeah.
Of like the one time that she said that, now he's using that whenever.
But in a way, I mean, yeah, of course it's horrible that he thinks that and that she thinks that. But I think the fact that he said that, maybe he interpreted her wariness as like, oh no, is like Cassian changing? Is Cassian then gonna change from what I know?
Oh.
And he's like, oh, don't worry, I'm not changing, you know? Just the bastard born nobody that you know and love. Well,
but then it said like her lips thin. I almost said nips thin.
That'd be concerning.
I wish she was going semi-willing. Like,
yeah. She wasn't like kicking and screaming as they winnowed her up there.
Mm-hmm. And I love how just it's cringy that Moore had to winnow them, and then so she had to grab onto them. And
Reese purposely was like, "No, I'm not doing that."
He'd kill her. Yeah. At least how he feels right now.
Yeah.
But I do love how then we switch to Nesta's POV as soon as like Moore winnows them to the House of Wind, because then immediately she's in Cassian's arms, and of course Cassian's arms. So she's like, she'd rather break her bones for the fall maybe than be in his arms on the way down. And I went, bitch, why? Because it's too good. Because being in his arms is too good of a feeling. All right?
Because she doesn't want him close to her anymore. Because if he's close to her, then he'll get hurt.
I feel like my response would have been, no, Moore, you don't have to winnow us. Like,
we can fly.
We could just fly the whole way up, and I'd have more time in your arms. And they'll get to that point. Or I don't know, maybe Nessa's gonna grow wings at some point and just like,
she can, like, similar to like Feyre's shape-shifting power, she can use her fire to have fire wings.
Fuck, I don't know. Like,
that'd be kind of cool.
Anything is possible. I think that because Cassian is such a flyer, there has to be a way that she has to fly.
There has to be some way that he can share the sky with her.
But yeah, they're like up on the veranda, seeing Nesta's perspective about the times up here. Because again, they were up there while Feyre was in the Spring Court during ACOTAR, right? And that was like a month? How long was she in the Spring Court for?
Yeah, a month.
She was basically on Elaine's suicide watch that whole time. She was like expecting Elaine to like jump off the balcony, throw herself down the stairs. Like this, again, they're not really thinking about that, but this is kind of traumatic for her to be back here because there was no safe zone for her.
Right.
This was not safe because Elaine wasn't safe.
Right.
That's again, difference of perspective, man. Like, they didn't really know that.
They're like, oh, you're going to be in the exact same room. Elaine's room will be sealed off to signify that wall that's between you guys now as well.
Though I love how the moment of Nesta and Cassian just staring at each other, wind ripping past them. Because they wanted to, I love how he isn't getting cold, but she is. And she's kind of mad about it.
Yeah.
And then he says, okay, my room's a level above yours. She's like, why do I need to know that? Well,
in case you need a sparring partner sometime.
You might want to know that. I think that, oh God.
If anything, that's a place to avoid right now for her.
Can I just say, when I read this the first time, when they were talking about like the whole masturbating thing, I was thinking,
they're going to hear each other.
These nights they're gonna hear each other. That's what I was thinking. I was totally. I'm not denying or saying that happens. That is what I thought when I read this and I heard that. I was like, oh, but also, oh yay,
oh yay. That might lead to some awkward breakfast encounters.
He runs down to, but doesn't let him in.
If anything, I was thinking that like Cassian told her this, just to be like, hey, I am living here and I am going to be here. Just so you know, here's where I am. And then I'm thinking that for Nesta, she's like, okay, like, why would I need to know where you are? I feel like, of course, she's probably grateful about it. She's just not saying it. But if anything, like, it's a place for her to avoid.
Yeah.
She's like, oh, so he lives there. I am not going anywhere near there.
Which, again, we've read a book before.
Yeah.
And we've watched a movie. So she is going to get drawn to that.
Oh, yeah. She's going to be very grateful she knows where his room is.
Though I do like when she talks about, like, again, we already discussed this, but about how, like, no place felt like home. Very much like Feyre.
Yeah.
And I like how, I said this in ACOTAR, I think, but I love how Nesta saw a future when Lane didn't. She describes it as, like, when she talks about, she wouldn't have cared whether she'd stayed, where she, like, found the books, it was her lifeline. In the months leading up to the war Nesta managed, had stepped into this world with these people and started to see a future. So she did. And that's what we felt in ACOTAR. That's why we liked her.
Yeah.
Or, like, we see that she's seeming to fit in.
Yeah.
And I think she does like the inner circle, and she likes what is happening. But then, like she says here, until she'd been hunted by the king of Hybern in the cauldron, until she realized that everyone she cared about would be used to hurt her, break her, or trap. And then here's the part where she only saved one, him. She would do it again if forced to do so, and knowing that, couldn't bear that truth either.
Yeah, because that's also a scary truth of realizing you would go that far for one person.
That you would save him, not everybody else.
And you would do it over again.
Yeah. She's figuring it out, but she's also not.
No.
Like, actually.
She's gonna ignore that fact.
Is it also very interesting that Azriel is staying up here, too?
By the way, Azriel is a few doors down from mine. Just so you know, we are not alone here.
This is Liesl's knowledge.
Yes, thank you.
Because he feels uncomfortable at the river estate.
Yeah.
Which is like, isn't that the antithesis of what that was? The whole reason they made that river estate is so that everybody could have a room to themselves. But he doesn't feel comfortable there. Because Azriel's journey is not yet complete, and he doesn't feel like he deserves to be there.
We still need to care more for Asriel.
So he'd rather be away from everyone else in this. They actually, him and Cassian have rooms in the House of Wind. They actually do. I feel like Asriel has stayed here a lot. Again, we don't really know of another place he has stayed, but seems like...
And it seems like he's also often away anyway, spying on all that stuff. But I think it's kind of like a bunch of different reasons as well that Asriel's here. Specifically that Cassian said it. I think Asriel is there for Cassian's benefit. So, as a kind of rebound a little bit, a buffer, that's the word. A little bit of a buffer between them. Same for Nesta's sake. And probably, maybe not Rhys, but Feyre asked him to be there. And
since he barely is anywhere anyway, so might as well be there. Though I will say, I did really appreciate it when he said, he'll be here, but for a lot of the time, it's just going to be you and me. Yeah. And then her immediately freaking out like I would. She goes, alone. Cassian? Here? And then I put my fucking dream. Up at the House of Wind where no one can hear us and we're all alone and away from the city. That sounds like a dream to me. But she is definitely taking it as a punishment.
Yeah, absolutely.
I do like it when she talks about how she was gonna get at Cassian and kind of striking him about how this is Rhys's money and not his, because actually everything that Cass has, even though he did it by, being on a salary, technically it is Rhys's.
Yeah.
But again, he is earning it, so it's not like that's really a place to hit him at, but she knows it would hurt him. And she talks about it as like this curse that she has, that she was taught. We're going to assume by her mother is that she has a curse to get at people's insecurities and that she was honed with this killer instinct in mind. And it's interesting to think about that because that's what when people talk about like what a homeostasis is, that has been hers for so long that's just what she goes back to in a moment of unrest.
Yeah.
Instead of going to something good, it's I'm going to get at somebody else because that's what I've been taught to do.
Yeah, make them feel as bad as I'm.
And make them feel unstable so that I have the control here.
Which is backwards and a little bit toxic and definitely unhealthy.
A little toxic. Just a tiny one. So she also doesn't want to eat, which, again.
Clearly why she's very, very skinny.
And I love how she said, I'm not training at that horrible place. And the thing is, I said the same thing. I was like, I wouldn't want to train at Windhaven either. Why did they think that was a good idea?
Train at the House of Wind.
I thought that too when I first read this. I was like, Windhaven? No one wants to go there.
Why did Feyre get to train at the House of Wind? And Nesta's being dragged to Windhaven.
Because, dude, no one would drag... I also think, selfishly, I think they wanted to group her there just so that if there was any settling unrest among the Illyrians, that they would get scared by her. I think that was selfishly what they did, but I caught that right away.
Yeah.
I was like, why are they sending her to Windhaven? That's a terrible idea.
Yeah.
No one wants to go there. And especially when she talks about having nowhere else to go, and she keeps thinking about these options that she was given that aren't really options. They are, but they aren't. It's kind of like, think of it similarly as when they said, like, okay, Nesta has to do this or Elaine does. To Nesta, it's not a choice. She's not going to let Elaine do something that she could do.
Yeah.
So there's no choice, really.
Right.
But they don't get that. Or they do, but they just choose to.
Also true.
I love how she kind of gets at Elaine, though, for having a place here, but she's not saying it in a very envious way. This is like the one time she's not being. She's like, this is what makes Elaine special, is that she can find a place anywhere, which is the same place, same thing they did when they were at cottage. She found some sort of, whether or not you're going to say bliss or ignorant bliss or whatever, like naivete. She finds Elaine's innocence about life beautiful.
Yeah.
And that's why she protects her so much to her own detriment. Yeah. Elaine's own detriment to an extent. It's like Nesta is too jaded while Elaine is too innocent.
Right.
And there's no good balance there. And that like Elaine has a place. She has friends. She makes friends everywhere. Like that's the thing that makes her special.
Yeah.
And the Cauldron learned that for sure. And she just doesn't care. Nesta doesn't care about anything. Like she gets led down to the bedroom and Nesta's in her room. And I really loved this. And this is where the matter of perspective came in for me. I think this is a big metaphor for the whole book, is that she hates this place. But the one thing that we haven't heard up to this point that she loves is this window. And she loves that this wall of windows oversees the land, the people, the river. And this is the matter of perspective, because everybody for the last two books have been saying how the House of Wind is too far from everyone, that it's the reason why Rhys and Feyre like it in the city is like they like being amongst the people. They like feeling with everybody and not away because they think it's too isolating. Whilst Nesta sees this as as being with the people, but away, kind of getting a bird's eye view instead of being in it and not seeing it.
Right. She's a little bit more introverted in that sense.
Yeah, like Feyre and Rhys would be the extroverts here who are like, in person, I want to see up in the face. Versus Nesta would rather watch from afar and get the same point of view as them about how the city's beautiful, about how there's so many good things and da-da-da. But because she was on the ground, she was getting overwhelmed by everything and she couldn't really see it. And all she had was like one kind of like horse blind vision.
Yeah.
And that metaphor right there blew me away. I was like, that is the metaphor for the book. Yeah. And that is why the House of Wind made me so happy. That it was such a constant thing brought back. Yeah. And that the one person who seems to actually like the House of Wind is the one person that everyone doesn't like.
Yeah.
That was very poetic justice there.
Classic SGM though.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And then of course, immediately gets triggered the moment she likes anything.
Yeah, true.
She has a moment of happiness looking at this window. And then, what was it? What did she actually get, like, triggered by? Oh, the roaring that felt like she was getting yanked into the cauldron again.
Yeah, her power coming up again.
Because she was in a moment of happiness and wasn't trying to push it down and let it out.
In a way is similar to what the beginning of Frost and Starlight, where Feyre was like, oh, this is so great. And then, oh, but that was sad. And then, oh, that's so great. but that was sad. Oh, so it's kind of like that, but like up to an extreme.
And I will say, another thing that this book does really well, and I think you would agree, because we've talked about this, is that breathing.
Yes.
That is a constant through this book, and that's something that Feyre didn't really, in her journey, was not really a thing.
No.
Versus here, Nesta's like...
Yeah.
Like the really heavy breathing.
Especially the way that it's written of the breathe in, breathe out.
Again.
And again. And again.
It
and again.
lets it slow.
Mm-hmm. It makes you feel like that. Honestly, when I read that, I instinctively took in a breath. And I blew it out. And again. And it's like, that. Honestly, it's kind of instructions on how to come down from a panic attack.
It's good. I really liked it a lot. Especially since, like, we talk about breath all the time. And especially as singers.
Yeah.
How breath is so important.
Yeah.
So that really got me.
Because when I can focus on things, if I'm ever feeling super anxious, I do square breathing, 4 in, hold 4, breathe out 4.
Such a singer, yeah.
And it's like, well, yeah, I learned it from the singing, and I'm just like, this doesn't really help, but it gives me something to focus on.
Mm-hmm. It's something to focus on other than what you're actually doing. So then, of course, we, last chapter, switched to, again, so much. This is like 60 pages for only 4 chapters. It's wild.
Yeah.
Cassian's POV. Mor and Cassian are at this cafe in Valaris drinking coffee. And even though we kind of questioned Cassian and Mor's relationship throughout, I like how he's kind of giving the audience his perspective on her. Mm-hmm. He keeps at first calling her like, oh my god, this gorgeous, happy, beautiful woman. And I keep saying, okay, as I'm not a jealous woman. Mm-hmm. But if this person who he has had sex with previously, he kept calling without you explaining that you think of her very sisterly, I am going to get a little upset.
Right.
Because he keeps calling her like gorgeous and beautiful and
I will say I am though very happy to finally have his perspective on this and his like feelings on it. It doesn't mention the buffer that he's been between Az and Mor, which okay, I guess we'll have to keep waiting for that.
Well, it'll come to light at some point.
But it's also like, okay, so that's putting that to rest. He's done with feelings for Mor.
Yeah. And maybe we could say how he felt before, but again, that's speculation. And also at this point, he only has eyes for one woman. Yeah. At least to me. But I love how he's very like, Mor is his sister and he's happy to see her happy. Mm-hmm. And I love how he's getting ogled in public and she's just kind of laughing at it.
Yeah.
It's like, of course you'd be getting ogled in public. You are you. But he doesn't think that. So he's like the key, again, that's the reason he gets himbo energy. Not that he's an idiot, that he doesn't realize how attractive he is.
I think it's also something I considered on this on this reread is the fact that sure they knew who he was through his other like feats and missions and stuff growing up, but in the first war 500 years ago, like he was just a foot soldier, like he hadn't risen in ranks yet, and so technically this was his first like big war that we've heard of that he was actually the general of. Yeah, so I feel like his reputation would have grown anyway,
and it grew a lot. Like when they were talking about them going around the war camps and them talking about him taking down that other general before. You're hot, babe. Yeah, I'll tell you all day. Like But I do love how he says he used to love it. He loved like getting ogled by people. But it wasn't until Reese went under the mountain that he's like, do I really deserve that attention though? When everybody else looked depressed and sad.
Yeah.
Like, I don't deserve it.
It's
And then
like,
of course,
I can't do anything to help Reese. I don't deserve any of this.
And then of course, because he doesn't really care about anyone else's attention, he only wants one woman's attention and she is not giving it to him. Because of course not.
Of course not. It's not that easy.
No. Though I will say, yes, more. Please, don't fucking say a word about Nesta. Like, we are not going to go down this road. And I love how he does stop. He's like, don't say it.
Yeah.
And she also, too, more is like, we should have thrown her in the Court of Nightmares.
Honestly, more, you spent so long in the Court of Nightmares. Like, why would you want to put Nesta in there?
You know, but again, I think Cassian says it in a good way instead of immediately getting angry.
Yeah.
No, that's just because we know she would be good at that.
Mm-hmm.
We all know that, but we don't want her to be.
Right.
Like, we don't want her to become that. So, no, we're not sending her there.
I won't allow it.
Like, the thing is, they think it's a punishment, right? Mm-hmm. They think sending Nesta to the Court of Nightmares would be like, oh, we're gonna scare you straight. The thing is, because he knows Nesta, she will survive anywhere. So the thing is...
And there seems to be sex and alcohol and music down there.
She'll survive and learn it. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And then become what she'd hate, just to survive it. So they're going about that wrong.
Yeah.
Scaring her straight is not going to happen. Though I will say, when they talk about their relationship, again, because we're getting it from Cassian's perspective, I kind of like how, okay, yes, granted, what happened to Moore was terrible. It's not necessarily her fault of what happened to Cassian, but also, isn't it kind of fucked up from his perspective that the first person that he actually has sex with got, like, because she had sex with him, got almost killed.
Yeah, because she chose him.
Because she chose to sleep with him. Of course that would cause someone to have some fucking insecurity, like, I am that bad to sleep with by these uppers or whoever, even though he might not care about their opinion.
Yeah.
That she was worthy to be dead. That is a matter of perspective, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know we're gonna beat that to death, but it is true, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
It's also crazy to me to think that, like, Moore's like, seeing Nesta in pain is, you don't like that. Of course not.
You're only realizing this now?
Dear God, have you not been watching?
Clearly.
No, she has. She just doesn't want it to happen. Because what did she say? She said specifically, we're trying to get to that. It pains you seeing her like this. Yes. Yes.
Good job.
Good observation, Moore. That was a really good idea.
How long did it take you to reach that conclusion?
Well, of course, he doesn't like seeing all of them in this fucking situation.
Yeah.
Because the person he loves is having a bout with everybody and can't seem to understand that her sister actually does care about her.
Yeah.
Or that the fact that he's the only one that sees that Nesta's hurting as well as Feyre. Because everyone is only focusing on Feyre versus Nesta is as well. And he's the only one that's seeing that.
Yeah. And okay, I won't rag on Moore too much here.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of gotten to a point where she can't ignore that there's something going on between Cassian and Nesta. I think before that's definitely what she was doing. She was ignoring. She didn't want Cassian to go away from her in any sense. But I think because of all of this, and she comes back just as Nesta is getting sent up to the House of Wind with Cassian. So she's like, this is going to be really hard for you, but I can see that you care, and I can see that you're going to put your effort in this, your entire being in this, and like, just be careful.
Yeah, just don't get disappointed.
Yeah. So I will say that even though Moore has done some questionable things that I do not agree with, mostly because of my protective ass, but I will say I do appreciate that she can see things even if she doesn't want to.
Can get objective.
Yeah, she can be objective about things, and she does genuinely care for Cassian.
But like we said before, we finally get the confirmation that even though Cassian does think that Moore is very beautiful, it's very much in subjective. We crossed that bridge a long time ago. Yeah. Didn't work. We are like siblings.
Yeah.
So I do not see her as he said, had let lust turn into affection and all romantic feelings turn into familial bonds. But he's not gonna lie and say that she's ugly.
Yeah.
Like, he's gonna say that.
Which is honestly good, because it's like, yeah, she is pretty, and like, you can say that your siblings are pretty. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I heard, like, there was a while where people thought it was weird that I said that my brother is attractive. It's like,
not.
I'm not saying that I'm attracted to him, but he is an attractive person.
Yeah.
And especially as he's grown up. So it's just like, he's got a weird alien looking when he's
Well, yeah, her brother actually did look a lot older than I thought he was.
Yeah.
When I saw a picture.
But anyway, so it's like, it's not actually that weird for me to say that he is an attractive person, because that's just an objective fact.
I say that about my cousin all the time, and we talk about that in college, because we both got ragged on for that. I was like, there's nothing that's not. Yeah. But that's very much a guy thing to do. actually, though. I mean, I'm not gonna lie and say that she isn't, like, good looking, but I do like, you know who would be a good person to know that? Nesta.
Yeah.
Because to be fair, in her perspective, and I completely agree with her on this one, is that would be confusing, especially since they did have sex with each other. And because she doesn't know, she cannot fathom the amount of time that it has taken. So she thinks because they were each other's first, or I'm assuming his first. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to stick with that canon.
We've said that before.
So she's going to be like, no one's going to forget their first. She is 100% valid in feeling like that, I think. So until he explains it.
Yeah, and I guess just one thing I wanted to add in about that. I mean, obviously, I know all of this is between Nesta and Cassian for the most part, but I really want, actually, more than just Azriel being my boy, I appreciate that Cassian, well, I don't know if I actually appreciate it. I had noticed that, you know, Cassian did make that decision because of what happened to Moore, but then also because of Rhys was, like, of course, frustrated by it, but specifically the fact that Azriel was so furious.
He was hurt.
And it's just like Cassian, and we've seen this before, Cassian is so determined to, like, keep his family together, keep them happy, that he's like, okay, what I just did is creating some tension and maybe some splits between me and my family. I don't want that. How do I remedy this? Okay, I will make myself not love Moore anymore in an intimate way.
And again, we don't understand the capacity of time, so you could totally do that over centuries. Come on.
Yeah.
Especially when you got like a hot woman like Nesta just sitting there. And
it's a good thing that Nesta came along.
Hell yeah, he was what she needed. So of course, as Moore and Cass are talking to each other, she's explaining that, again, Valahan and apparently these other territories have kings. Mm-hmm. So again, we're getting to a king-queen scenario. Apparently there is a king and queen of Valahan. Mm-hmm. And they do not want to sign the new treaty that Rhys, Feyre, and apparently Helion have.
It makes sense. Helion has a way with words.
Also, they brought up about the libraries.
Yeah,
that he has like 1,000 libraries or whatever. That the human queens are stirring and the human armies have not disbanded. So basically, Valahan is saying, why are we going to sue for peace when they're not standing down?
Mm-hmm. So there might be another war where we might be able to get some more land.
Yeah, and it's all about, I mean, dude, geographical politics for the win. I mean, they want more land. All about the territory. I don't think they really give a shit whether the humans live or survive.
Yeah.
Like,
which is kind of good in a way of, like, they're not, like, trying to go for human slavery.
Yeah, they're not, like, as extreme as
Tyburn, it's but just also about whether they get land or not.
Disregarding, which isn't good.
Doesn't matter to them. They
don't want slavery. At least from what this seems.
Yeah.
That's all they care about. And again, they're kind of their mode of mind makes sense. Why would they stand down for?
Yeah.
If they're not standing down.
Right.
It kind of makes sense in a way, but again, they're still bad.
Yeah.
So Moore has to try to convince them not to go to war, and Cassian has to try to figure out what the human queens are doing. Mm-hmm. I also want to know what Azriel's doing. Yeah. Because that was a big question for me. Mm. Because what the fuck is he doing that has nothing to... Because the whole last books, it was him literally trying to spy on the human queens. Yeah. So what is his new mission?
Right.
And we don't know. So again, that could be a theory for another time. But what is he doing? Because apparently Rhys said that he's got a bunch on his plate. But what would that be?
What did Rhys send him to do?
I have no clue. I didn't even have a thought. So basically, Cassian has the smart, bright decision of, well, who's the first person to go to about the queens to kind of lead them in the right direction? Vassa.
Yeah.
Which it's like, of course, bringing Vassa back in the fold. That's how we bring in everyone. That's how we bring Lucien, Jurian. That's how we bring them all back in the fold.
Yeah, get all the pieces back in play.
I do appreciate, though, how Moore's like, we can't trust Lucien. Which Cassian's like, why not? And there's a level to me, like, I kind of, especially from last book, because again, we're reading this in a quick succession. Why wouldn't we trust Lucien? He seems to have done everything right, but to a distinct degree that Moore says, yeah, he's been too friendly with Vassa and Jurian now. Not saying that they're not to be trusted, but we don't know them. So how do they actually know what he's saying is real or true?
Or unbiased in any sense.
Yeah, because of course they're not going to trust Vassa right away. Or ever.
Because they still don't understand her curse. They don't know why she hasn't been called back yet. So it's like, okay, that's an unknown thing. And then Jurian, well, he technically was their enemy in a way. They didn't like him.
Cassian still doesn't like him, but that's just...
Yeah, so it's like, okay, so... I mean, they seem to be ruling the human part of Prythian fairly well. But yeah, so Lucien can't be unbiased because he's been spending so much time with him.
Yeah, and that makes so much sense. But again, Cassian is not in the more Rhysand mindset where they think about that stuff.
Yeah.
He's like, why don't we just get Lucien to do it? It's like, yeah, but now he's too in the thick.
Yeah.
He's too in it.
And I think Cassian is gonna... I realize that he's gonna have to start thinking the way that that they do. He's gonna have to start thinking about these things like on the spot. But he is so trusting. It's just like, well, why can't we just, why can't we trust Lucian? But I appreciate this with more. Like, she explains it to him, but not like condescending. And she gives him space to be like, oh, so this happened, and then this, and this is why you're saying that. So he's not slow in any sense of that, but he does take a little bit more time to process it, just because he has never really done that.
Yeah, and also like more is, and she does say that, like, dude, we just figured this out. He's like, why haven't we talked about it before? It's like, well, no, we just all figured this information out like right now.
Yeah.
So this is where we're headed.
Yeah.
So this is what we're giving you. I think it's interesting. I think it's going to be an interesting thing to bring Vasa back in the fold. Like, is she going to help them? Is she going to not? Where is this going?
Right.
Though I will say, bringing up again another kind of storyline, the Eris Cure Moore storyline. Okay, she's gone now. Have they visited? Apparently not. Apparently Eris has taken a little bit battle for the team and has kept Cure from going into the city.
Which, what did he offer?
What did he offer? Why is he doing that?
Yeah.
If he's such a bad guy, and why is he helping more? Is this to maybe gain her favor a little bit so that he can ask her for something later? A favor?
Right.
Or is this genuinely out of the goodness of his heart because he thinks she's owed it? I don't know. I don't think that he has like a goodness of his heart bone in his body. I think he always, and to be his extent, that is very a Reese thing to do, isn't it? He's not going to do something just to be nice. There is going to be something for him involved.
Yeah. We just don't know what that is. I'm going to be, actually, just because we're starting a new book and we're starting a new season, I'm going to be honest, I actually like Eris.
Okay.
Yes, he is a prick and a complete ass.
But also so are the bad boys. Just
exactly. Like, everyone has their ups and downs. But overall, I like Eris, and I really want to know more about him as a character and dive more into him. But I'm just saying that now at the beginning of the season, I am growing more into an Eris fan, which is weird.
I don't think I liked Eris at this point. I'll be honest about that. Because what reason to like him? Yeah. Except for maybe being questioned about him. I haven't liked him yet.
I think just because of my intrigue from all of the past books of like hearing more about him, or maybe the fact that we're hearing like just bare scrap about him, the intrigue draws me in.
It's like, my question is, and again, that's theory for another time, but like, what would he have done to make Cure be like,
right? Like, what would he have to offer?
Another daughter? I don't know. Like a brother? I have no clue. Ties with Autumn? Like, there's nothing more that he can give that he already hasn't given.
Right.
So,
like, what would Cure want?
His seed. Because apparently he wants his offspring.
Yeah.
That's just a joke. I don't know, but
I mean, Cure is pretty interested in bloodline.
Cure, that is like his pride and joy, bro. Yeah. Like, he just wants a powerful grandbaby. And I want it to be Moore's mission to marry a woman and then her have no fucking continuing line.
Yeah.
Just to piss him off.
That'd be perfect.
But yeah, so that's kind of left in the wind open there, right?
Yeah.
And then we finally get to Nesta's POV. This whole time she's just been asleep this whole day. But she wakes up to pure darkness because she thinks she's back in the cottage, which is an interesting trigger because it's a different trigger than the other ones. It's like she's got like 5 triggers.
Yeah.
There's the fire, there's the waking up in darkness, being back in the cottage, and then there's the cauldron thing, and then like more triggers down the road. Like, damn.
There's a lot of triggers.
At least Sarah had like maybe 2.
Yeah.
Maybe she had like 2 that she'd wake up to, like Reese getting hurt, and then like the other, the sisters. I don't know. She didn't have as many triggers.
Yeah.
Again, it's not a competition, but I'm just saying I have to keep a list to follow Nesta's.
Honestly, I kind of, this might be weird, but I feel like it's better to have more triggers. I mean, okay, sorry. Let me try and explain that a little bit more. Like, having less triggers is easier for the people around you. So there's like less things that can like trigger you. I feel like with more triggers, that allows for, I don't know, breaking up the parts so that you can work on one at a time, so you don't feel overwhelmed by, I have 2 giant triggers, but that's all, versus I have 5 to 10 smaller triggers that could be worked. I don't know if that's a weird way of thinking about it, but I feel like that would, of course, that makes it difficult for others as well, of like, oh, I didn't know that was one of your triggers too.
I think that's just a matter of perspective, because I don't think that's necessarily wrong, but that's not something I would. I think that'd be too overwhelming for me to have multiple things. Like, I think the idea of having 2 triggers is like, like that there are multiple things in it, but there are two main things that will do the triggering, like waking up or the fire. Like it's a difference of looking at it.
Yeah.
Which you guys are going to be sick of me hearing about perspective.
Perspective. Say perspective 3 times.
So she almost freaks out, but you know what is very interesting about what calms her down? She puts her head up against the windowsill and is comforted by the starlight going through the window. That should have been the trigger right there for everybody to know that she's meant to be in the night court. Again, she's not meant to be the high lady of the night court.
It's kind of similar to beginning of ACOTAR when Feyre woke up from the nightmare and she went and stared out a window, remembering night. So it's similar in that
I love that. I love that. It just makes me think it's like, okay, this is getting more to a point where like I belong here. Because again, where else would you get that?
Right.
So she's letting the starlight touch her, and then she's thinking about how her mother used to, and I fucking love this. We have been wanting to hear more about their mom for so long, and now we're getting at least some bits. Yeah. So basically the quote is, "My Nesta, Elaine shall wed for love and beauty, but you, my cunning little queen, you shall wed for conquest." What a loving mother, yeah.
Perfect.
So basically, yes, Angelica Schuyler's her. And I think calling her a queen, because Feyre always called her that, I don't think she realizes how accurate that was.
Yeah. It was always a queen without her throne.
And that she was to wed for conquest. To wed for what? Okay.
That's not just like what marriage for advantage. Like that's a thing of like, I'm going to marry technically for advantage, maybe money, whatever, but I'm not going to be like the submissive wife. Like I'm going to be a leader of something.
That gives me so much more questions about their mom than I was thinking. What were you trying to conquest? What was this?
What are you trying to conquer?
Level of ambition for Nesta?
Yeah, what is Nesta? What did you think Nesta was gonna conquer?
Like, okay, I get marrying a prince. Like, I get that level of like, you're gonna marry royalty, but not this level of conquest. That's a strong word.
That's like you're gonna marry a prince, and then once you're married, you're gonna become queen, and then you're gonna kill
him in his sleep. Yeah, that's what it feels like. Then we get a good old Thomas Mandray reminder. For everyone who can't see me, I am currently flipping the camera off.
Yep.
Of yes, again, how Trigger tried to rape her.
Yep.
And how he feels like she feels his hands. And again, SJM doing a really good job of explaining why that feels the way it does. Because again, nothing happened. Like, again, there was no penetration. She got away. Like, again, he did not actively, but the assault and the lead up.
Yeah. It still was a moment of assault.
That she almost married this dude and then got assaulted by him.
And remembering what Feyre said about Thomas sitting back as his father beat his mother. Like, just, that was briefly, just barely mentioned in the first book. And then now she's still remembering it.
So basically what she says is she could feel his rough hands pawing at her, bruising her, and then the coppery tang in her mouth, which I'm assuming means that he hit her.
Yeah.
Like, because blood in the mouth, I'm expecting some sort of...
Either that or she bit him.
He hit her, bit him, something.
Yeah. She was tasting blood.
And she said, I quote, that she wished the cauldron stripped away that part of her humanity. That took away the bad memories. But that would be too easy.
It would.
Like, you can't just get a clean slate just like that. And then, of course, my Nesta, her mother had always called her, even on her deathbed, so wasted and pale from typhus, my little... Did she really get typhus? That's another question for another theory episode. I doubt it. But...
yeah, that's like something like going around is people doubting that it was actually typhus.
It's interesting about how Nesta reacts to that, right? Because even though she probably hates what her mother did, she still felt power by that. By her calling her the queen and everything. And like, she used to love her mother's name for it, but she never forgave everybody for turning their backs on her. And what she means by that is the people that, again, because Feyre wasn't really old enough to know when everyone turned their backs on them when they lost their wealth. But all the people that Nesta and probably her mom taught, especially if you ever watch Bridgerton or any sort of like, when they get taught about the royal families or, you know, the lords and ladies, all those people who were friends,
quote unquote friends,
turned their backs on her. And I have to say this quote verbatim because it's really good. They had thrown them all, mere children and a crumbling man, to the wolves. So Nesta had armed herself with invisible teeth and claws and learned to strike faster, deeper, more lethally. Had relished it, but when the time came to put away the wolf, she found it had devoured her too.
First of all, yes, I have that highlighted too, as you can see. But I love that for many reasons. One of them, a very simple reason, just being the teeth and claws, going back to what happened with the cauldron.
The animal analogy.
Yep, animalistic thing. And again, what is it with another Archeron sister becoming a wolf?
It's the same metaphor, yeah. They don't know that they're using it.
Yeah. Again, another miscommunication between sisters.
That actually does bond around them. And see, this is the thing is we're seeing their bonds before they're actually made.
Yeah.
Like we see the emotional understanding that is there. Again, they're misunderstanding where it is,
Yeah.
but it's there. And Feyre had to become a wolf too to protect her family. Nesta did it in a not helpful way.
Yeah.
Helpful to all the people that wronged them, but not helpful for them.
Yeah, Feyre became the wolf to help her survive in certain moments, and then Nesta just became a wolf. Like, and as she said, she couldn't put it away, so it then kind of just came over, and that's why she's always like lashing out at everyone and always trying to attack. I think that is her inner wolf trying to protect her still.
For sure. So wow, that was really a matter of perspective as well to look at, because it's like she just never let it go, and then also nobody else kind of confronted her about it, because her mother was gone, so there was no person controlling it anymore.
Yeah.
And so then it got out of control, and then she didn't control it. So and here we are. But Cassian's like, so this is like the end of the little chapter. It's only like 3 pages. He is laying in bed, and I can just imagine him in this massive bed, and I'm like, hot. Big enough for me and you, babe. And he has his head behind his head, like his hand behind his head, kind of like leaning back. And he's just thinking, she's downstairs. She's a level below me.
So no masturbating.
Okay, you have, yeah, that kind of probably was what he was thinking. He's like, she's going to hear me.
If I do anything, she'll hear me and then she'll tease me.
He just keeps thinking about her. Even though she basically tried to rip him a new one earlier.
Yeah.
Because he liked his room. And I was like, the thing is, we haven't really heard of him ever having a room. So this having a room at the House of Wind is actually very interesting. And when he hears like the door slam, it's Azriel, because he wanted to let him know he was there. Because normally, and he didn't want to talk.
Yeah. So something happened in Az's day.
Now I'm really curious if we're going to see more of like what he actually does.
Yeah. What he's doing right now.
Because that would be interesting.
Also considerate of him to let Cass know.
And he doesn't know what's stored in Azriel's room because he's never really been in there.
Yeah, interesting.
I'm scared. You should be intrigued but scared.
I'm excited.
But he like gets his knife out because he thinks that something's happening and whatever. But and he never forgets how Nesta, that time with the ravens, ran into his arms with terror in her eyes. Like,
ran straight to him.
He never wants to see her like that again, but also to a certain extent that he doesn't want her to feel terror.
Yeah.
But it was the fact that when she did feel like that, where did she go?
Yeah. She felt safe with him.
And
that's a good sign.
I could just, again, imagine him looking at the ceiling, having one of those movie moments. And then I was actually really happy about this. I know we talked about this last season about how this is a transition between Rhys's and Feyre's story into their story, at least for now. But I appreciate how we still get this mind-to-mind, because I thought I was going to miss it, but we actually do get it with Rhys here.
Yeah.
Him talking to Cassian because he's still awake.
Right. And Rhys just like spearing out his mind, like just during break, just being like, I wonder what's happening up at the House of Wind.
Is that you guys?
Is anyone dead yet?
Doing all right? And also, kind of understand. He's like, I told you I had some apologizing. We're taking a break. She's the one who initiated this round.
The pure male satisfaction.
Oh my god, it's still hot.
Even just hearing it from like a single point of view.
But again, sorry, we're not talking about that.
Well, Cassian hasn't felt any shaking yet, so.
Nesta went to sleep and she's still asleep. She's been asleep all day.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't say, I love how he said that to both Moore and Rhys. He's like, do not butt in yet. Don't butt in yet until I think you need to butt in.
She's been asleep for 14 hours.
Feyre's done that before.
Yeah, and Rhys didn't complain then.
Because he loved her, okay? He does not love Nesta. I'll check in tomorrow with an update on the first lesson. So, of course, Moore's going to bring him up to Windhaven. And then, of course, the end of the check-in. This is going to go really poorly.
Yeah.
I was thinking when I read this the first time, because again, we don't actually get to the training session this episode, but because that was already so much information.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is not going to go well. Not at first.
I think just that final line of, Cassian wondering how much of himself would be left after this. After even just tomorrow.
Because this is going to be a real testament to whether or not he can handle this. this.
Yeah.
Holy shit. But what an interesting start to this book. I was pleasantly surprised. Like, this got me hyped. Because I was like, I couldn't put the book down.
Yeah.
And I was really happy about it.
Yeah.
I love this book so much. I mean, I used to hype that with ACOTAR, which I do. I mean, Miss and Fury is still top tier.
Yeah.
But this rivals it pretty hard. But also because of my Cassian. So, anyway.
Yeah, I like ACOTAR. But yes, so anyway, now we are going to move on to our section. Now we are going to move on to our second section where we talk about the graphic audio. I recently was gifted a membership to Audible, so I can actually listen to all of the graphic audio for this one, and I need to start it because I am not prepared for it. And I am actually kind of concerned even just for these first 4 chapters in Prologue. So let's get into this and tell me what I am in store.
Well, first of all, you got to read Frost and Starlight because you need to fucking do that wall scene. You have to hear that wall scene. Yeah. That was wild. Okay, but I was super hyped for this because anybody has been following from us from the beginning how much I love Natalie and John. Not only because I love Nesta and Cassian, but I love them to death.
Yes.
And we do have a fun thing for the end, but I'll save that. The prologue, right off the bat. Again, Colleen Delaney, for anyone who doesn't remember, is the third person narrator for this. Does an excellent job throughout the whole thing. I thought I was going to feel a little off about it, but I actually was pleasantly surprised. I was so hyped for this graphic, and I fucking love the intro music. It was before the prologue even started. It was when the graphic audio presents A Chord of Silver Flame, and there was this very foggy music. It was so deadly and treacherous. It reminded me of like Black Lagoon level of we are diving into, and again, it kind of gave me water vibes before we even heard the sloshing of the water. Colleen Delaney is an excellent narrator. I'll just say that off the bat. I think her rawness when she talks about this scene and this prologue, she is hitting all the marks of all these like big swells and pushes and where she needs to fall back. And she does a really good job of that because again, she also is a character actor. So she is like, I'm basically thinking of her as the mother. Like I have personified Colleen as the mother.
Colleen is just the mother now.
Is telling the story through her eyes, through talking about Nesta and Cassie. That's what I get right off that. I think, again, because I try to spouse these, because I could talk about the graphic audio all fucking night. Yeah. But the real heavy hitters for me in this opening prologue is this Nesta evil cackle in the cauldron that we didn't get to hear out in the real world. She gets dumped in there, and when she starts tearing at the walls, Natalie goes in. She's like, this is like evil witch level cackle.
Well, she has said that she's a witch.
Oh my god, it was really good. I got chills. And then the music at the quote of in the beginning, it was very like D&D fantasy level vibes of this is going to be important later.
We're starting a big epic story now.
I also got chills with this opening the whole time. Like I just felt like this was not overhyped. This was pure hype, and I was here for it. And then getting into chapter 1, obviously in Cassian's perspective, I love in which the ease that when Colleen switches between Cassian's lines and Nesta's line in the way that they're describing perspective, because you can even tell through her narration who she's talking or who she's following. So it's very easy to follow, which again brings me back to what your mom said about how it's hard to follow in the original audiobook.
Yeah.
With this, I know exactly who it is because of the way she like when you're in Cassian's point of view, it's very much ease and flowiness and whatever, but when she's in Nesta's, it's very sharp and pointed.
Even just like subtle voice changes.
I loved the sound effect of Nesta's feet when the reason I like that was because we know that Cassian has a heightened sense of hearing, and so he could hear it and it felt like, vampire hearing, where you heard it before, like it got to a certain point. There was like a level of reverb that came off of it that I really, really liked. Cool. And I was like, because again, they were going so in deep with this sound design.
Yeah.
Also, the way Natalie sounded right off the bat sounded way more unhinged than Frost and Starlight even, and that was pushing it. She sounded so groggly. She's like, what do you want? Like, Jesus Christ. Like, again, that's over exaggerating, but yeah, it was bad.
Growly and just not putting up.
And John Bertullo, good Lord, the first line leans up again, you hear the wood crack and rough night. And I'm like, everything tightened in me. I was like, holy shit.
Your boy's back.
I missed him so much. I think the thing that made me laugh so much when I was listening to this about the Cassian tits line, about him talking about Nesta's breast, is the way Colleen delivered it. She gave it with so much the swaggering arrogance of a college frat boy.
Perfect.
Yeah, her magnificent tits. Like, yes.
Cassian is kind of a frat boy, isn't he?
He
At
is.
times.
For sure. And I was like, Colleen, that was actually pretty good. It made me laugh really hard. You remember when I was sitting there laughing on the floor that night? I also thought hearing the mail on the other side of the room fall was kind of funny, because as soon as Cassian said the line, you heard like the knocking of it and like falling down, and it made me laugh. It was funny. Also, the monologue of Nesta's, like her whole, whenever the whole deep dive we went in to where she's talking about, you know, her in the bathtub and how she feels responsible for everything. It was just so, it was sharp like Nesta, but also it was very resigned, if that's the right word to say. Like very just, not as like go with the flow as Cassian, but just kind of giving up. It was this giving up feeling that I thought was really embodiment of Nesta there. And then we get this really drubbery scene, and then we get this very fantastical change in music in the river house, just like everything's like happy, and
that's almost kind of annoying though.
I know it was. I was like, we get this really down and drab, and then all of a sudden like perfect symphony at the river house, and I'm like, okay, now I can see why this is a little annoying.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I loved Colleen's emphasis on Reese and his usual black. Like she was just like typical, like Reese and his normal black. Not like her boy doesn't wear black all the time either, but just because it's Reese, the pointedness at him all the time.
Everything that Reese does is awful.
Is annoying. Yeah. And then getting to hear Nora and Melody and Anthony again, I was like, as soon as I heard Anthony, I was like, hi. I know I'm kind of cheating a bit with John right now because he's the focus of the book, but god damn it, when first line Anthony had was sit, it was the T. I was like, yes sir. I don't care if it showed me as weak in a dominance level of thing.
You wouldn't have fought back against that. You would have sat down.
I would have just sat down. I mean, part of me would have been like I would murmur at it, but I was
inside. You'd be like, okay,
whatever you say. Okay, Anthony, if you say so. Jump off the cliff. Well, okay.
Well, I don't think that's a jump off the cliff.
Like, will you catch me? Like, that would be my answer.
Will you fly down and
will you catch me? God, I love you. Respectfully. But come on. Okay, anybody who doesn't think that is lying to themselves. I am just speaking the people's truth. Okay. Okay, so then chapter 2, when it's more of like Feyre and Nesta talking to each other. We talked about this with Melody in her episode in season 2, where we talked to Melody Muse, that Feyre does sound more matronly than before. But I don't think that's necessarily a bad.
No.
I think some people think of it as a bad thing, and I think I was getting that vibe from Melody. Not that Melody thought it was a bad thing, but was a little disappointed in where it was going. But I don't know. I thought it showed some growth level of taking more of responsibility role and putting her foot down more, because dude, matrons
have to make that decision.
Yeah, like she's being more, but again, she's the peace one here.
Right.
She's the one trying to keep the peace between all of them.
She will keep the peace as long as she can, and when that doesn't work, she will put her foot down. I can see that.
And especially when John is like, ooh, we're gonna have so much fun together. Like, you can tell he kind of wobbled at that, but also there's part of him who's like, yeah, we will have fun because maybe this is my chance. Like, there's a level of anticipation I think he had that, because of course Natalie, goddess. I like how she starts out soft with Feyre. At the beginning of their convo, she's like, why? She starts out soft and then gets mad as it keeps going. Yeah. I like how Natalie does that, because I think when I thought of Nesta going into these books, before I read listened to the graphic audio, I thought Nesta was just hard all the time.
Yeah.
But again, no one can be hard except when Reese is around Feyre. But no one can be that tough,
that icy
all the time. And so Natalie did have to find moments in her character where she has that. And I'm glad she did, because that shows a level of character work that probably someone else might not have.
And probably the deeper, like, that you wouldn't have gotten in the actual book, the deeper feeling of, yeah, like, we're at a really bad place right now, but she is technically my younger sister.
You could also kind of take it as she was trying to placate to her feelings a little bit to see if that would help, and then it quickly did. You could take that any way, and I'm glad that there's a kind of openness to that level of how are you going to take this? Right. Are you going to take this as her trying to weasel her way out of it? Or is she trying to be genuine? Because especially what she does say when she says, I was going to tell Feyre everything, makes it seem like it's genuine, but you could have the argument that she wasn't.
Right.
And I love that line about control. I love how Feyre says it nonchalantly, like she normally always does. But then Nesta's like, you are not the person to tell me about my control.
Yeah.
And then she goes into it, and then there's this level of despair in Colleen's narration with getting loss of control from everything in her life. Mm-hmm. And I was really, really happy with that.
Yeah.
And then chapter 3, I love how in the background of Reese's office, they just have classical music going on. Again, you probably would know what person it was. I don't know if it was Mozart or Beethoven, but it was definitely some good old age classic music.
Now Cassian's drinking tea and listening to
yes, it felt music. Like, oh my God. I was like, this is...
Well, Cassian's also upgrading to courtier, and now his whole character is changing.
We're getting more, but he's not going to change anything. That kind of does seem like a Reese thing, doesn't it, though? Because now he has this perfect space to himself. Yeah. This is how he always wanted it, or something. I could see that.
He can have classical music in the background.
Mm-hmm. And I love the fucking memory. I missed this, and I was so happy to hear the Bone Carver again. I just hear like, oh, what did you bring back? A lord of bloodshed, prince of bastard. I was so happy to hear it again, and I was like, I love those memory things.
Yeah.
And I bring it up every time because it is a crucial moment.
The effects on them, though.
It's like when you see it's like there's a flashback in an actual movie.
Yeah.
Or a TV show or whatever. Like, that's what that is.
Yeah.
Anthony, I thought I wasn't going to have to deal with your ass. I mean, I've read this book before, so I know. But also, God damn it. I didn't think all I'm going to have to do is worry about John, and that was going to be it. But now I have to worry about you at the beginning too. Stop. God damn it. When he says the line about, he's just like, nothing's soft when I'm around her. I'm just like, because we know how sweet that man is.
Yeah.
Every time he says something with the sex vigor of like a porn star, I'm like, I'm speechless.
Excuse me, sir. Where did that come from?
Good sir. Not on this Christian Minecraft server. It is bad, bro. Like every time, that is how I think. I'm like, I know this man is the sweetest man on earth. The most respectable guy too. But somehow he can be like a sex god in voice.
Yeah.
And it does not compute.
It does not compute. Even after or especially after speaking with him and meeting him.
After 5 books, I just can't get over it. I can't get over it. So then anyway, moving on. There was this big, not only was there tea and classic music, there was a big grandfather clock chime sound when it got to that clock chime. And I was like, okay, so they're going full Brit with this.
Reese is finally becoming a little ostentatious.
Oh my God. He's gone full blown, what is that? Pride and Prejudice. He's gone full that's the saying. He's gone all full Jane Austen on us.
Really his office that he's made for himself.
Hey, that's what he wanted. Like, he's never had really a space to himself, so this is good.
That's true.
And I loved Amanda, her brightness coming back. As soon as I heard her, I was like, just, hello. I was, oh, hi.
She's back.
She also, another thing I love about Amanda is that I feel like every time I hear her voice, I go out and grab for a hug. Like, I feel like I just want to hug her.
She does really have, we're gonna hug now kind of voice. And
she does.
No.
We're gonna hug.
Oh no, my God.
That was a good one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry, I did the, for people who don't see what I just did, I was like, we hug, and then it's like unclasping the bra strap, but like the creepy ones and fucking.
No, Amanda, just even with her voice, I mean, of course, after talking with her personality is also very much like that, but even just her voice is just like, oh, hi, this makes me smile.
It does. Her voice is very, and I love how when they go up to the House of Wind, how the music shifts. Not to this classic, I mean, again, it goes from the classic music, but it's very peaceful. And I like, because it sets up this sort of peaceful bubble that they're in. Again, it seems like imprisonment to her, but of course, we know that it's for the better, it's for the greater good. Right. It sounds very peaceful sound. So I do like the breath at the end. At the end of chapter 3, Natalie does it 2 times. She's like, the director, which is also Colleen Delaney, by the way, also knew how important that was to this book. And so as soon as I heard it, I was like, so it's going to be like, yay. Okay.
This is setting the stage.
I am happy that this is going to happen later. I really am. And then chapter 4 with Cassian starting at him and Moore at the cafe. There's this very beautiful harp music that's playing. Again, it kind kind of just reminded me of I think whoever did the sound design for this, for the music, did a really good job of keeping the sounds of Alaris sounding the same.
Yeah, I was just gonna make a comment on that. Like when they went to that one restaurant in Akamath, I think that music was also very like calming and relaxing, very, calm city like. Oh, this is a cafe. Oh, this is a restaurant that's also partially outside, So good to know that continues to be the case.
The sounds of Alaris, like Reese showed her that night under the mountain, it like is continuing.
Yeah.
The thing I love about John so much is that he has something similar to Anthony, but they're also very different actors. And I think his soft voice is so attractive. It's like, he's like, please don't. It sounds very kiddish. And it's like, God, especially when he sounds so rude and angry. And then he changes to more like, especially when he gets nervous, he's like, oh, more about like people getting ogled at him.
Yeah.
It's funny.
I can appreciate a guy that usually is rather boisterous like Cassian, being able to have a soft voice.
And I love how he says, when he says at the end with Moore, he's like, I miss you these days. Why is it the first thing that came to mind? I literally almost said it out loud. When I listened to it, I was just like, I want a man to say that to me. The way he said it to her, I was like, I want a man to say that to me.
But that suggests that the guy that's saying it to you hasn't seen you for a while.
But yeah, but not also in the sisterly way.
True.
I want it in the
other way.
the other way it could be.
Yeah.
Oh, I was so happy about the mom's voice. Because in the first ACOTAR, whenever we got that flashback of Promise, that never had a voice to it. I don't ever remember it having a voice.
Right, it was just Fair saying it.
And this time, it was snaky. Like, again, not like, it did not sound, it sounded gross to a level of, not like, it sounded like every dance mom of just like, and you, Nesta, my little queen. Like it sounded very like
over dramatic,
two-faced bitch snake level.
Okay, you just had to say Dance Mom.
Yeah, dude. Every woman on Dance Moms, every Beverly Hills housewife, like that is what it reminded me of. And then of course Cassian up in the middle of the night getting the thing from Reese again. You guys know how much I love hearing Reese in the mind speak. I love that. And then just him being like, God, it was such a visceral reaction to when he said, he's just like, she instigated this round. He is so, I feel like, again, I don't know if this is Anthony, it could be, but I also think, I don't know if it's because the difference between him being saucy, spicy to Feyre is because he's doing it in a very elegant, matey way versus the way he's talking to it with his boy. Yeah. He's like, yeah, we're on round 3, like the level of sex appeal that is under that, but also the level of male arrogance that's tied to it, trying to voice to a boy that's like, yeah, we did it.
Yeah, and the satisfaction of like, hey, I hit that.
Yeah, like it kind of gives frat boy level of, yeah, man, but like in a very sexy way that we've gotten yet, because we haven't ever heard really him, except in Frost and Starlight, talk about this with him, having sex with her. I'm just saying, Anthony, stop. There's part of me that's like, I'm glad I get a break from him being too much, or not being him enough. Yeah. But the problem is I have to deal with John now, and so I'm overwhelmed. Okay.
And now conversations between John and Anthony in Mindspeak.
Oh my God. It's like all of the fantasies thrown in one. But yeah, no, that's my end for the graphic audios. So
I'm excited.
We do have a big announcement. We have 2 big announcements first. We hope you all enjoyed this episode really much. We are excited to jump into this. And we have, again, with the new year starting, we have so many things in new development. Again, sorry for the hiatus. Again, we're not in the fires, but we do want to, put a word out there. Like, thank you to all of the firefighters who have worked. We have firefighters that live right next to us. Yeah. Thank you for putting your life on the line for us, for doing everything that you do and not really getting as much credit for it as probably you do. So there are funds. I could probably put some funds in the description if you want to go to those and support. But again, thankfully, we have not been part of that because our firefighters have kept back the fires from us. Going into this new year, we're ramping up, doing better at all the things we have said we were doing, and 2 announcements. So number 1, we are having Natalie and John be on our podcast this season for interviews. I'm hyped. Not only about Natalie, but John, Jesus Christ. We tried to have him on for season 2, but he was too busy. No.
He's too busy for us that he doesn't even know.
That man probably has so much work to do. Yeah. So, like, I respect that completely.
We gave him 6 months to choose from this time.
We called him back and was like, please come on our podcast. I'm going to give you, like, dude, this season's going to be, like, longer than all the other ones. It's going to be 23 episodes we've got.
Yeah, so all the way up until May.
I was like, do you have anything going on till May? He's like, I think I can squeeze you in. It's like, okay, thanks.
Perfect.
So we're trying to get some other interviews, but again, for the other mini episodes, they're just going to be theories. Because again, even through this episode, we had so many things that if you do have things that you want us to become potential episodes, please let us know. But the other big announcement, I didn't want to say yet until the guys said it, but they did on their podcast. So I think we should give them on ours. Yeah. We are doing a crossover episode with another ACOTAR podcast called A Court of Bros and Broses. Broses?
Roses. It's going to be like roses.
Yeah, I know. I think I just am having a lisp moment of not being able to say it.
You're full of excitement.
So it is, their tagline is, I have listened to all of their episodes. Again, I actually listen to their episodes while I'm editing ours because I can multitask because I'm cool like that. I've listened to all their stuff. I will also put their description down below. They are so funny. We love that. I mean, they are hilarious. We love, again, we haven't ever really reached out to another podcast because it's not, everybody has their own style. Let me say that. And I think that we would have a fun time with them. And they're really the only first podcast that I've actually listened to long enough to be like, yeah, I talked to these guys. They are basically 3 straight men on their maiden voyage through, which is such a cool concept. No one has done it yet because a lot of people are us who are sisters or like a girl and another girl who, or I'm not dissing any podcast, but I will say that some girls have just brought their boyfriends along to do a podcast with. And so there haven't been like a group of guys that are like, we are going to do an ACOTAR podcast. Yeah. So they are going to grow really big and we want to support that. But yeah, we are doing a crossover episode with them in February. Plan is to do it like on Valentine's Day to talk about, they're about to get to the end of ACOTAR.
Yeah. So they've only read the first book and they've been very, their style is very much just their action.
Not this deep diving into it. Such as that. Those poor innocent babies.
They have so much to learn.
They have no idea what is coming for them.
Nope.
But I'm really excited. Yeah. Again, we're starting up, like getting back on our TikToks and everything and just having fun again. I'm excited for this and I'm excited for our potential new crossovers and maybe doing stuff like that more in the future. Maybe when they get to the end, maybe we could just make it a regular thing of doing that.
And it will be on their
It'll be on their podcast.
So we'll of course put links to that when it happens.
And promote it like hell. But yeah, so much excitement for you guys. I'm really excited for this. And if you followed us up to this point, welcome to Silver Flames. Yeah. We're going to have a great time.
I can't believe we're already in Silver Flames. I mean, I know ACOTAR was short, Frost and Starlight was short, but I can't even begin to explain how excited I am for Silver Flames. Yeah. I get to reread it again, or not again, just reread it for the first time. So I already know that I'm going to be overwhelmed with all the new information as what happens on the first reread, well, most reread. But anyway, so I'm super excited for that. And then I'm going to listen to the Frost and Starlight graphic.
Have fun.
Only one part. I know I'm going to have fun with that. And then I get to listen to the Silver Flames graphic audio, which I'm also not prepared for that, but I desperately need to hear it.
Oh yeah, for sure. It makes me smile. So we will see you guys all in the next episode. So yeah, next episode we will be going through chapters 5 to the end of chapter 8. Again, these seem like shorter chapters, but they are pretty long.
Yeah, so even going through like 4 chapters is probably going to be another 6 pages or so.
Yeah, they're all long. So please bear. But yes, so please follow our Patreon for free. You can do it for free, or you can do it for the 2 tiers. We have a tier at $3 a month and $5 a month. 3 is the High Fae and $5 is Inner Circle. There's extra bonus content, my show notes, video content, which we're going to be adding more to the archive as well. And just overall, like such a fun time. Shout out to Lucy.
Yay.
Our basically our number 1 fan besides our parents and Madison.
And Madison, of course.
And yes, please follow our Instagram or TikTok, or we don't know how long TikTok's actually going to be around though. So it might be going away soon, but at least Instagram and Facebook. Yeah. And so we will see about that. So yes, we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Yep.
Bye guys.
Bye.